me, Vicky Marie, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, it's still crazy here in Spain. It's pouring down with rain, absolutely pouring down again. So, I've just had another scary journey going to drop my son off at work. Hailstones, rain, you name it. I'm hoping when I go and get him later, it'll all have finished. Anyway, so in tonight's video, in tonight's live, we're going to be talking about water safety, aren't we? And Rebecca Ramsay is going to be joining us. She'll be here in a few minutes. And while we're waiting, I think what we'll do is we'll have a look at this little video. Rebecca very sadly lost her son Dylan in 2000, I think it was 2011. So let's have a look at this little video while we're just waiting for Rebecca to arrive. Let me see. I'm going to have a look at this video on Daily Motion.
The first time he ever went swimming, he was 8 months old. His ability just grew and grew and grew, and at primary school, Dylan could already do the lengths. He just loved water. He was very much a water baby. Then he went to high school, athlete of the year, and he was very, very, very physically fit. I never in a million years would have thought that if Dylan said, "I'm going swimming," that those would be the last words he ever said to me.
It was a Sunday, early in July 2011.
It was an absolutely normal morning, like any other Sunday morning.
I just remembered it being a beautiful sunny day.
The sun was splitting through the trees. You knew it was going to be a blazing hot day.
I remember the house being alone because my wife and kids had gone to see friends out of the area. It was nice and quiet.
My second eldest, Stephen, was in a football tournament. Always a bit of a hectic morning when there's football. You've got to make sure the boots are there, kit's out, socks, they've got a pair of socks and they're not odd.
I've had some breakfast, bacon sandwich with a coffee just to see me throughout the afternoon.
We made picnics for food at the tournament. We got drinks together, bottles of water.
I got ready for work.
So just watching this video just makes you realise, isn't it, that days that start out as normal days, you just have to make the most of every minute, don't you? Because you just never know. And, a day that started out so normally, so routine, and ended up obviously completely different.
Work, got in my car and I drove to go to work for my 2 o'clock start.
Just before we left, I remember going into Dylan's bedroom that morning, and his bedroom was an actual tip. And he had plates of food and God knows what else. And I told him that he needed to tidy his room before I get back from football. He had a conversation with his dad. He said,
that never gets any better, I don't think, does it? The mess under the bed. But you know what? That's it. Talking with Becky the other day, and it is of things that are irritating, of course. You'd love to see that mess under the bed. Well, you know what I'm saying, don't you? It's just they're all the same, and I don't think it ever changes. Well, it hasn't changed with my son, put it that way.
He was going swimming and could he do his room a little bit later, and he grabbed a towel and off he went. Also, was at my son Stephen's football tournament. Everybody was sunbathing, everybody was enjoying the heat.
I was just hoping for a quiet day, nice and steady Sunday. I was in the office doing my administration when I received a call through my personal radio.
We was a couple of matches in, and that's when I received the phone call. Changed my life forever. I was 17 years old when I had Dylan. It was quite a long labour, but when he did come into the world, I remember looking at him and just thinking how special he was, how amazing this little person was that I'd created. And I just remember promising him that I'd love him unconditionally for the rest of my life, and I would protect him as best as I could. He was very, very, very much a people person. He loved people. So when he went to nursery, he would want to be friends with you and you and you and you and everybody else. Dylan could be anybody. He was going to be the Red Power Ranger. That was it. That was his dream. He was going to be the Red Power Ranger. And I really think he believed he was going to be the Red Power Ranger. He competed at Sports Day and won everything that he attended. Everything that he did, he won it. Then he went to high school, and again, he started on the same foot. He was beating everybody, and he was top of his game, so he became Athlete of the Year. And, you know, he was very, very, very physically fit. First time he ever went swimming, he was 8 months old. His ability just grew and grew and grew, and at primary school, Dylan could already do the lengths. Dylan could swim quite well. Like, he just loved water. He was very much a water baby. I never in a million years would have thought that if Dylan said, "I'm going swimming," that those would be the last words he ever said to me.
I think that's a very important thing as well. You know, Dylan was a good swimmer. You know, he was a strong swimmer. And I think that's important to remember that anyone who goes wild swimming or free swimming or whatever they call it, there's always, doesn't matter if you're a really good swimmer or not, there's always something that can go wrong. And when Rebecca comes on, she'll tell us what her philosophy is as far as swimming is concerned.
The call came out over personal radio to all available patrols. Could they attend the Hilltop Quarry, where there was...
Right. Oh, she's here. Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay? We're just watching this video that I think you must have done for Lancashire Live or something.
Yeah.
Should we watch it? We'll just watch it to the end. Is that okay? Or
yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah. Are you okay?
Yeah,
Thank you so much for coming on. Yeah.
No problem.
And let's hope, we can get some awareness out there. But we'll just finish off this video then, because I start doing it. And it's actually lovely. There's some lovely footage of Dylan on it, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
There's a child in trouble in the water. Immediately, I've shouted up on my radio that I will attend.
I told my mum that we needed to get to the quarry, and we needed to get there pretty quick. There's been an accident. And at this point, I'm thinking that Dylan's fallen from the quarry edge. I'm thinking that I'm going to a broken arm, but the water never entered my head. The water never entered my head. I rang my dad and I said, you need to come and pick up the kids, because I think I'm going to have to go to hospital. I remember being blocked in, and there was a police officer behind us, and he was trying to pull my mum for driving erratically. I got out of my mum's car and jumped into his car. I said to him, the little boy that you can hear about on your radio, I said, that's my son. I said, please, can you get me there as quickly as possible?
I remember the first time I saw Dylan, his eyes were closed. His skin was very, very pale. And his lips were just blue. And there was just no reaction from him whatsoever.
Are we okay to carry on with this, Rebecca? I don't want to. It's probably bringing back horrible memories, but in a way, that's what we're here to talk about. You're okay with it?
No. Yeah, you're absolutely fine.
Okay, thank you.
I knew that we were going to be in trouble trying to save him.
I remember he was driving at 100 miles an hour. I looked at the guy's speedometer, who was doing 140 zone. Alarm bells were obviously ringing by this point. I remember praying, and I'm not religious at all, but I prayed.
Oh.
I prayed so hard that my little boy would be alright. I just kept rocking backwards and forwards, saying, please be alright, Dylan, please be alright, Dylan, please be alright, Dylan, please be alright, Dylan, please be alright, Dylan.
We were performing CPR for about 15 minutes. It seemed like an hour. One thing I remember from my sergeant doing the chest compressions is the actual gurgling sound of the water within Dylan. I did my best. but I'd failed.
As I arrived, my husband was stood there. I jumped out of the car. And he screamed that Dylan was dead.
One overriding memory of that moment of going up to the top is hearing the scream of Beckie, Dylan's mum. And that noise will live with me.
Worst day of my life. Immediately after losing Dylan, like that night, I knew that if this could happen to Dylan, then this could happen to anybody. And I knew that I needed to understand what had happened to Dylan. I couldn't understand how a young, fit, able-bodied swimmer could lose their life in open water swimming.
When you go into water and it's cold, you're automatically shocked and your esophagus closes. You're not getting blood to your arms and legs, therefore you're not getting oxygen to your muscles. 10 seconds, that's all it takes from going into the water to being rendered paralysed.
You know about crossing the road safely, you know about stranger danger, green cross code and all the rest of it. This is as important. I wish I knew then what I know now, because if I knew then what I know now, I won't be sitting here reliving my nightmare.
The work Beckie's done, considering what has happened to her, is remarkable. It takes someone with unbelievable inner strength to do that. Most days she's talking about her son. Remarkable.
I hope Dylan watches from above.
Oh.
If I didn't think that we would be reunited one day, I'm not sure I could go on.
Oh.
But I have to think that one day, when my time comes, he'll be waiting for me.
Oh, so, are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how does it feel? You know, I know when we were talking the other day, I know you like to talk about Dylan and you like to, but, you know, does it bring it all back? Is it like yesterday or does it feel different or?
It depends. I mean, grief works in such like mysterious ways. Like literally, you can wake up in the morning and be so down and just want to curl up in a ball and cry, and then literally half an hour later, you can be living what's perceived to be a normal life, shopping in Asda and going and getting your normal, doing the normal daily routines. So it's really hard to answer that question, to be honest. Grief's just, I think it's indescribable. It's different for every single person, and it's an individual thing what you go through. For me, like sometimes I can watch that video and I can literally watch the whole thing and I'm absolutely fine because I know exactly what's coming. I've watched it a million times.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can sit and watch it and just bawl my eyes out, and be inconsolable because I remember that this is actually my life,
Yeah, because
Some-
well, it's not something you're just watching on a video. This actually happened to you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when you do so much, I think I don't know what the right words are, but I think when you do so much that you can lose that in some senses. Do you know what I mean? You can get lost in the grief, especially when you're talking about it on a daily basis. Like you're kind of stuck in that moment, I suppose.
Yeah. So, what's your sort of when you remember that day? Was that an accurate thing that the policeman was saying? Because when we were talking about the cold water shock and things like that, because Dylan, he'd actually been in the water already for 20 minutes, hadn't he? When he got into difficulty, apparently.
Yeah, so Dylan had, according to eyewitnesses and according to his friends that was there on the day, Dylan had been in the water for 20 minutes. So in my opinion, from from the knowledge that I've learned to do with water safety, which is quite extensive over the 14 years almost that I've been learning about water safety and the dangers. Yeah, I don't know. I just personally, I don't believe that Dylan died of cold water shock. He was
Yeah.
only underwater for 3 minutes in total. And if I'm being totally honest, if you've been in the water for 20 minutes, shock to the system after 20 minutes of being in the water. But that's what the coroner put it down to.
Yeah, 'cause it does seem strange, doesn't it? You know, because when the coroner, because your coroner, of course, was Mr. Is it Adley or Adley? Dr. Adley. He's not the most popular coroner with a lot of people. And he said, you know, during the Nicola Bulley inquest that, it was 30 seconds or whatever, that it happened. And so it seems strange that Dylan would be swimming already for 20 minutes. Before that happened, and that you feel that that's not really been addressed properly. It wasn't. Your concerns about that they were ignored, really, weren't they?
Absolutely, 100%. Everything that I asked for was ignored. So I asked for the place to be made a crime scene. The two people that was with Dylan were brothers. They had a couple of hours to go away and say or collaborate or do whatever they wanted to do. And I'm not saying that they did. I'm not implying
No.
that they did go away and collaborate a story or make anything up. But what I'm saying is that they weren't interviewed immediately after what had happened individually, separately, to make sure that their accounts matched. That was never done.
No.
They went away, they got to sit with the parents, and they got to decide what they wanted to tell the police as a family. That's not, in my opinion, right.
Yeah, exactly. And they were a bit older than Dylan, weren't they? They're brothers, and one was 15 and one was it 17? You said the other one was?
No, the other one was 19, the oldest one was.
19, yes. So they were old enough to, especially the 19-year-old, to give an account, of what happened. But somebody just said in the chat there, David, is a possible cramp. I thought of that. Could have got cramp, couldn't he? After it could be, but it doesn't seem logical that it could be cold water shock. And in some, I know it doesn't change the outcome anyway. But as a mother, you want to know exactly what happened, don't you? You don't, sometimes I feel like with coroners, or certainly with that particular coroner, they just try and brush things under. It's just like get it finished, tie it up in a neat bow. That's what happened. And, but not look into it too deeply or whatever.
That's exactly what happened. And to whoever's made the comment, I absolutely agree. It definitely could have been cramp. Dylan shouted for help 3 times. So Dylan knew that he was in some kind of trouble.
Yeah.
Now, in my opinion, it was either cramp or there was a pull under the water. Now, potentially, I think.
Tell us about, again, because you told me the other day about the water and the blue pipe. Was it that was in there?
Yeah, so to start off with, as I arrived at the quarry and I was told about Dylan, my 2 youngest children, were in the back of a police car. And rightly or wrongly, right now, in my opinion, I did it totally wrongly. But at the time, in that moment, you do what you do and you don't really know what you're doing.
No.
So I went over to the police car and I opened the car door and I basically said to my daughter, who was 4, and my son, who was 9, Dylan's dead. And I just blurted it out as plainly as that. At which point my daughter, who was 4, turned around and said, "Mum, Dylan's just been back and told me that he's very, very sorry that he's gone under the water. A pipe pulled him under and it was a blue pipe." Now, at this point, I hadn't been down to the quarry, so I didn't know anything about any pipes or anything like that.
So
but
who
when I
was
got
that that said that? Sorry, who? Your other son? One of your other children?
my daughter, my youngest daughter.
Ah, right. Okay. Wow.
So like I said, she was only 4, so I took it with a pinch of salt. But she knew that he died in the water, and she couldn't have possibly known that. She couldn't have known that possibly. Do you know what I mean? Like, we didn't know that. Well, I did, but I only just found out. So she couldn't have possibly known that.
No.
So I went down to the bottom of the quarry, and at the bottom of the quarry there actually was a blue pipe that was broken, and it was pouring water into the quarry, but it was at the bottom of the quarry, actually at the entrance, as in where you get into the water. Now, Dylan didn't go underwater there. Dylan didn't drown there. Dylan didn't die there. Dylan died between two islands. But my question really to the coroner or to the owners of the quarry was, or would have been, where did that blue pipe go to? Because it must have been pulling some water from out of the quarry to be pouring it. You know, you could clearly see it was coming out of a hole. It was pouring it back into
Right.
the quarry, if that makes sense. I mean, it was so loud that when the news came down to do a report on me, they actually mentioned how loud it was. It's in the back of one of my first news reports. I think that
Right,
must have been the Monday night news report. Now, my friend came down from Doncaster, and we went to the quarry again on the Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd been there at 10 o'clock at night the night before. I went back down at 8 o'clock in the morning, and between 10 o'clock at night and 8 o'clock in the morning, that blue pipe had been removed. It was now no longer in existence.
Right,
It was
okay.
gone. It
Right,
disappeared.
okay. That's interesting, isn't it? Because for it to be removed so quickly, what was the situation with the quarry, Rebecca? I mean, was it? Do you prefer Rebecca or Becky?
Becky.
Becky. So, what was the situation at the quarry? Was it not actually cordoned off? Then I take it. Were the signs up saying "Don't swim"? Was there any safety precautions?
So basically, we'd happened upon the quarry. We'd lived around here a few years, but not like we'd not lived around here all our lives or anything. And we happened upon the quarry because it was just so easily accessible. So it did have it's really hard to explain, but it's massive. So it's like, if anybody knows anything about size, I think it's 4.6 hectares deep or big,
Right.
which is pretty huge. And the perimeter of it, so like I would say probably a tenth, not even a tenth, maybe a fifth of the whole quarry had a fence upon it. But at the end of the fence, you could walk round the fence to get in it. So that the fence was,
So the fence was
it was just no.
useless.
Yeah, and it also had a slat missing from the fence. Now, the coroner said, had Dylan entered going behind the fence, then possibly we could have looked at like seeing what Ruttle's, the owners of the quarry's, involvement was. But because he went through the gap in the fence, basically the coroner said he should have known better because there was a fence there. But there was no sign saying don't go swimming there. There was no sign saying deep water. There was no sign saying that you could get cold water shocky. There was no life-saving equipment there.
No.
The quarry owner had already had a death at a different quarry that he owned a year previous to Dylan dying at this quarry. I know there had already been previous deaths at this quarry, and I only found that out after Dylan died. But the problem is this is happening on a daily basis all around our country, and our government do absolutely nothing about it. We've had drownings this week.
Is there anything up there now? Has anything been put up there now?
So the coroner made recommendations that the quarry owner put in signs, and they had 14 days to do so. Now, the quarry owners did put in signs, but there was basically paper laminated. That's a piece of paper laminated, which was never going to last 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they was gone within weeks, days. They were gone.
Okay.
But because the quarry did do what the coroner said, then they didn't breach any laws or break any rules or anything. Apparently the font size had to be a certain size, and apparently because the font size on these posters were the right size, apparently there was allowed.
But there was no follow-up a year later to see if they were still there, or if and is the fence still just half round like that? I know they've got to have access to the quarry, but it should be secure that people can't get to it, surely, because otherwise it could happen tomorrow again, couldn't it? As soon as the next nice day comes.
Absolutely. So the gap in the fence, the slat that was missing, that's been fixed. And where you could go behind that little bit of a fence, they've now built a massive estate. So they've made a lot of money by building a lot of houses, and you kind of can't get behind that fence anymore. But like as I said earlier on, it's probably only a fifth of the whole quarry that you can get into the quarry at numerous different locations around the quarry.
Right, okay.
Literally just round the corner, there's a waist high wall that you climb over and you're in the quarry. You're in there. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like, so a teenager would have no difficulty whatsoever in getting in there, and there's nothing to say. You know what? It's not even signs saying keep out or danger or no swimming up. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for educational signs, signs that say you could drown here, signs that say you could die of cold water shock, signs that say if you get into trouble in this water, ring this number and ask for the fire service. If you get into trouble in this water, get on your back and try and float to survive. There's none of that anywhere. Nobody does it. Nobody. I mean, I'm recommending to a council down south in England at the moment. I've made recommendations to them. One of the recommendations that I made to them, I'm not going to mention the council because I don't think it's really fair, but one of the recommendations that I made to them, they refused to do it. And within 3 months, there's another drowning in that river, and exactly what I said would happen happened. But if had they put something in place, what I'd recommended, potentially, and I'm not saying definitely, but potentially, it might not have happened.
Yeah. So do you know, do sort of the teenage children from the area still go in that quarry if it's if the weather's nice or whatever? Do you know if people still go into the quarry and try and swim as Dylan did with his friends?
I think, to be honest, I think right now we've got to the stage where it's been almost 14 years since Dylan lost his life, and the people that knew Dylan and knew of Dylan would never have gone into the quarry and risked their lives because they knew of Dylan. And it's a small village, so people wouldn't have gone through him prior to maybe last year, the year before. But we did notice that last year and the year before there was a group of girls in there that we told off. And last year there was a young boy and a young girl in there, but they wasn't swimming, the young boy and the young girl. But what we was just trying to explain to them, you know what, it doesn't matter whether you're swimming or not. It only takes for you to slip or fall, and nobody even knows that you're in here. Do you know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't be in here.
Yeah. I mean, it's scary, really, isn't it? I mean, and I think at the end of the day, young people, they do tend to take chances, don't they? And it's difficult, I think, to stop them going there in the first place. But of course, that's what you're doing with these talks that you go out and do at schools, isn't it? So tell us a bit then about how that's led you in that direction of how you try and promote water safety, because this is your thing, isn't it? This is what you're trying to do, is educate people, because you feel that if Dylan would have known more about water safety, it wouldn't have happened. And even, you were telling me, even yourself, none of us really were educated about. I was thinking back about it when I was at school, or I don't ever remember having any education about water safety or anything, really, to be honest. So
it's like
that's what you're trying to rectify, isn't it?
Yeah, so like literally the day after Dylan drowned, I said on the news, like, if the government's not going to teach water safety, I'm going to teach it. Little did I know that would then become my literal life, and I would be teaching water safety forever here on in. But within 2 weeks, so Dylan drowned on the 3rd of July. We had his funeral on the 13th of July, and schools break up roughly about the 21st, 22nd of July. So between the 13th and the 22nd, I'd gone in and given 2 talks at 2 schools. So within 2 weeks of Dylan passing, probably just about thereabouts.
Within 2 weeks, you'd got
gosh. So I went into Dylan's school first, which was probably the biggest mistake of my life. Because all I could see was Dylan's uniform, and all I wanted to see was Dylan's face. So I really struggled with that. And at that point, I wasn't educated. I'd just lost my son 2 weeks prior. I didn't know anything about water safety. At this point, I was telling Dylan's story. I was saying, look, my son was young, fit, athletic. He was a good swimmer, and he still lost his life. So this can happen to anybody. That was basically my message at the beginning when I first started. Then I went into my second school, and it was just a little bit stronger. The message was a little bit stronger. And then I started getting messages back from all these pupils saying, do you know what, I was going to go swimming at the quarry this weekend, or I was going to go swimming in the canal, or I was going to go swimming here, there, or anywhere in open water. And now, because they'd had my talk, they decided they wasn't going to do that.
Oh, good.
And I just thought, wow, this is really powerful that my story and Dylan's story can have that impact on people. So that 6-week holidays came, and I'll be honest, I wasn't eating properly, I wasn't sleeping properly, I'd just lost my son, life was a mess. And all I wanted to do was find out how my son could possibly have died in open water when he was so fit and healthy. He was athlete of the school 2 years in a row. He'd been swimming at Lake District a couple of weeks before he died. It did not make a single bit of sense to me how he possibly could have lost his life in this way.
And I think that's an important message, because people think, oh, I'm a strong swimmer, I'll be fine. But you're not, you're not. And your motto, because when I said, you said, didn't you, that what was it? No lifeguard, no swimming. That's your bottom line,
absolutely.
Isn't it? No lifeguard, no swimming, as far as you're concerned. And
absolutely.
that's, I think that's a good way to look at things, because people do think, especially young people, they do think they're invincible, don't they? They do think, oh, I'll be fine,
Yeah, you know what? There's lots of children and young people out there that I could give a talk to, or they could be educated on water safety, and they'd still go and take those risks. Just like there's lots of people out there that you could educate them on railway safety, for instance, and they'd still go and get the football off a railway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can't. Not everybody's going to listen to what I've got to say.
No,
yeah, exactly. But I do believe that Dylan was the kind of person, had he been educated, he either wouldn't have gone in the water, or failing that, had he gone in the water, he would have known what to do to help himself get out and rescue himself. And that's what was lacking. There was nothing. There was nobody out there teaching water safety. Even though we've got RNLI, we've got RLSS, we've got lots of different organisations out there, it still wasn't being filtered through. There was no water safety week. There was no drowning prevention week. There was no campaigns out and about. Excuse me. There was no campaigns running. There was absolutely nothing prior to Dylan losing his life. Then once Dylan lost his life and people saw that I wouldn't shut my mouth and I wasn't going to be quiet and I wasn't going to lay down, then people saw that there was money to be made off drowning, and money to be made off teaching water safety, and money to be made off drowning prevention. I've never charged for a single thing that I've done. Everything I've done has been self-funded by myself. I'll tell you, one of the worst presentations that I ever had to do was I got asked to go to a college. Well, it was a university in Swansea, and I literally checked my bank account and I had enough to either make the journey and put the petrol in, the fuel in, or book a hotel. There's no point booking a hotel if you can't get there. So I had one choice, and that was put the fuel in the car. So I put the fuel in the car. I left my house at stupid o'clock in the morning. I slept in the university car park in my car. Then I got up and did a 2 or 3 hour presentation. Then I drove a 4-hour, 5-hour drive home. Then I went back a year later to judge the work that they'd been working on for a year. But what I got out of that was so much, to know that a full class was only learning water safety or drowning prevention or that kind of thing for a whole year meant so much to me. It didn't matter that I slept in a car. No. I wasn't embarrassed by it or ashamed by it, but our government should be absolutely ashamed by it, because no grieving parent should be out there having to do the things that I'm having to do. They shouldn't. It's that simple.
Yeah, exactly.
And
So do you think they would have put you up in the halls of residence or something, wouldn't you? I mean, they must have plenty of places in the universities where you could stay. But anyway, but so when you were saying about how do you think who makes money out of going into what sort of people? I'm sort of at a loss as to people making money out of going and talking about water safety. Who would do that? I mean, is there other organisations that get paid to do it, or?
Yeah, there's lots of organisations out there that are getting excuse me, there's lots of organisations out there that are getting paid to do exactly what I'm doing. Some of whom are in the exact same position as me and has lost children, so they're doing it on the back of that. Now it's I don't have a problem, you know. At the end of the day, if people are going to go out there and make money off it, that's on they've got to sleep at night. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's their karma.
Yeah, I'm never ever going to sell my son's story. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't own my own home. I don't have a house because I've put my life on hold for 14 years to do what I'm doing. I don't have the money. I can't go out and buy a new car. I can't go on holiday once a year. I don't buy my kids everything that they want and everything that they need because I don't have it, because most of my money goes into my campaigning. But that, irrespective of that, I still wouldn't sell Dylan's story. I still wouldn't sell.
No.
Like I would never want money to be a barrier between me going into a school or me not going into a school. Now, don't get me wrong, there is definitely things that I could charge for, i.e. public speaking, or I don't know, there's lots and lots of other things not to do with talking about Dylan's story, but like grief, for instance. You know, I've helped a lot of families over the years. I've done a lot of things over the years. I've got involved in a lot of different stuff, not necessarily just water safety. I've I would say counselled a lot of families to a certain extent, because they come to me for help, they come to me for guidance. But that's not the kind of people that I'm talking about that are making money. I'm talking about the big organisations. So, for instance, just to broaden it out for your listeners, let people have a rough guess how much it cost for Dylan to drown.
How much it cost? You mean for the rescue services, etc.?
But yeah, for everything, for Dylan to lose his life, how much do you think it costs?
But because of the rescue operation and stuff, or yeah.
So police, fire service, ambulance, coroner, inquest, everything. I think they even take into account what he could have earned throughout his life. I think they even take that into account.
Oh, right. Okay. And they talk about that as, because they talked a bit about that, about in the Nicola Bulley case, I remember as well, how much it had cost, you know, as if it matters, you know, because at the end of the day, you can't put a price, can you, really, on things? It's just got to be done, hasn't it? But right. So if I was to think about it, I did a video about that, actually, about because everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people in the area were moaning, you know, that their money had gone on this searching for her for 3 weeks. I mean, it was a different operation because obviously they had to look for Nicola, didn't they? It was 3 weeks it took them to look for her. Oh, God, I'm trying to think. Well, it was in the thousands, like quite high thousands, I think, but I don't know exactly.
So I was told when Dylan lost his life, it roughly cost £1 million for him to drown.
£1 million?
£1 million, and there's not 1 pence is put into prevention of drowning. Not 1 pence from our government is put into preventing these drownings.
So
and we lose.
Even now,
no,
it isn't.
No, we still lose 600 people every single year to drowning in our country. That's in the UK alone. Now, we're an island nation. Why on earth is that not already out there being spoken about? Why was it not spoken about prior to my son losing his life? I'm angry. I am angry. I am frustrated. And I'm even more angry now that I know all that I know. And even though I know all that I know, we've still lost another 7,500, 8,000 people because the government won't listen to me.
And the thing the thing I suppose is, though, hopefully you've probably saved it. The trouble is you don't get to know the lives that you've saved, do you? Because they've not drowned. So
They don't. Yeah, exactly. The people that I've saved are never calculated, and I suppose that's the downside to what I do, is that I never know if I've helped somebody or if I've not, if I've prevented somebody from drowning or if I've not. But the only thing that I can get out of what I do is the messages that I receive back from, be them from parents, be them from children, be them from young adults, be them from Joe blogs, a teacher. It doesn't matter. The messages that I get back tell me that what I'm doing is very worthwhile, doing what I'm doing. And some of the messages just literally bring me to tears. Like, and I honestly, I can't believe that I'm doing some of the things that I do. Even, you know, I think that before losing Dylan, I couldn't have ever imagined losing a child. And if anybody ever asked me, I would have said, you know what, I'd never be able to get out of bed again if I lost a child. And I am so proud of myself that I get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. I often say this about families, you know, of various sort of cases that I talk about, how people, you know, actually get up in the morning and do normal things. You know, it's like, and if ever I get up in the morning and, you know, sometimes you just have one of those mornings where everything goes wrong. I always think about that, and I think, well, it could be a lot worse. I could be getting up in the morning and maybe my son could be missing and I don't know where he is, like with Jack O'Sullivan's mum, or, you know, I don't know how families get up and do, you know, do this when I suppose sometimes they get up and do it because they find a purpose like you have, and like, you know, you have to find something, don't you, to keep you focused and going, because, and you've got other children as well, haven't you, Becky? So, but it's still, there must be some days when you get up and you just think, oh, I'm not doing this today. I mean, do you ever get up and do that and think, oh, just not, you know, I'm not doing it today? Do you
Absolutely. Some days I get up and I just think I can't physically do today. I can't do the day. And sometimes I have things planned or booked that kind of I have to do. So sometimes I just have to give myself a bit of a swift kick up the backside and be like, do you know what? You've made these plans, you've made these arrangements, and you're doing it for your son. And I have to remind myself of the reasoning behind the fight, because sometimes it gets tiring, especially when you're not getting backed, you're not getting supported, you're not, you know. And I've had so much support. Like, publicly, the support that I've had has been unbelievable. As in from organisations.
Becky, can you see the chat?
No, I can't see any chat.
Well, I'll put some of the, because everybody's supporting you in the chat, so I'll put the messages up so you can see them on the front, but carry on.
Yeah, like, the public have been amazing. Like, I mean, on Facebook, I think we've got 8.4 thousand likes to the page. On Twitter, I think we've got a couple of thousand. People are really, really interested in what I've got to say, and people support what I'm doing, and for the reasons that I'm doing it. Sometimes I think that I'm stepping on toes up the top, if that makes sense. Like, so at government level, maybe.
They don't like being shown up for things. Whatever government it is who's in power, they don't like being shown up for things that they're not doing, do they? It's like, oh, just, you know, be quiet, keep quiet. So I think you're probably right there.
And I'm not going to keep quiet. Our government think I'm going away. I am absolutely going nowhere. If anything, I'm going to get stronger, bigger, and louder than what I already am. I mean, doing it for Dylan got mentioned at the World Drowning Prevention Conference. Now, at that conference, there was only 6 like major bodies that was mentioned at that conference, and doing it for Dylan was one of them. And they didn't even tell me that it was being mentioned, and it was like, wow. Just how am I even doing this? Why? How? It's bewildering. It is bewildering. Thank you so much for the lovely messages.
Tell the viewers about the problem you've got with your MP, who your MP is, and why that you're not getting. You know, normally you would get support from your MP, supposedly, but you're not. And why is that?
So a lot of people, or a lot of people in my position, would be able to go to their MP, explain the situation. The MP would then be able to go to the House of Parliament and fight on their behalf, and say what the problems are, say what changes needed putting in place and things like that. You know, maybe say we need water safety on the national curriculum or in the education system or whatever. For 14 years, I've not had that because my MP is Lindsay Hoyle, which is the House Speaker. Because he's the House Speaker, he has to remain impartial. He can't stand up in the House for me. He can't stand up and talk about my son. So the only time drowning prevention ever gets mentioned in the House, quite frankly, is either when somebody's obviously lost a life, or when I've pointed an MP into the direction of a family, or a family into the direction of an MP, which is, it's absolutely ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? That I'm going through other families to get heard, and then obviously Dylan's story's not getting out there because they're talking about other family stories, which is fine. To me, it doesn't matter who makes the change, who makes the difference. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it comes from Dylan's memory or whether it comes from Jack's memory or Gemma's memory or whoever's memory. It's not about the person. It's about the fact that we continually lose lives, and it has to stop. And it can stop if our children are educated from a young age. If our children are educated from a very young age in schools on an annual basis, maybe just an hour a year, I guarantee that drownings would
Well, that's
reduce.
right. Just as the summer's coming up, at least, shouldn't it? So, you know, something just as the nice weather's coming up, or even on a you know, more of a regular basis, because you never know in Britain, of course, when the nice weather's coming up, because it could be in February, couldn't it? There could be a nice day, or, you know, because it's so changeable.
We've had a few nice days in March. We've had drownings in March. We've had drownings already this year. Like, people think that people only drown in summer. That's a misconception. Like, people drown all year round, and that's because roughly about half of the people that drown, or just short of half the people that drown, don't ever intend to get wet. So they don't go out with any intention of going swimming or going for a dive or whatever. They go out with the intention of going for a walk, going for a jog, going for a bike ride, just anything. And unfortunately, they slip or trip or they fall. They might have been on a night out and had too much to drink, and they've slipped in the water. They don't get found till the morning.
That's it. There's lots of reasons, aren't there, that somebody might fall into the river. It might not be that they're going in there swimming. So you know, people are saying about Lindsay Hoyle. I mean, I know from things we've talked about before on my channel, Lindsay Hoyle's not he's not the most popular MP, let's put it that way. He's not a brilliant speaker even, is he? But the thing is, I've never
Is as good as a chocolate teapot, shall we say?
Yeah, well, that's what David's saying. Is as much use as an ashtray on a motorbike. So,
yeah, absolutely,
like,
absolutely.
And the thing is, I'd never even, until I spoke to you the other day, I'd never even thought of that if he was your MP, you know,
it's
how he
so
wouldn't
unfair.
be able to represent you because he's got to be impartial. Well, how ridiculous is that? He's a voted MP.
I've actually thought about, like, setting up a petition to try and get there to be two different job roles. If you're a House Speaker, you shouldn't be allowed to be an MP because you can't back me, you can't support me, you can't help any of my needs whatsoever. Why am I paying council tax? Why am I paying the government to look after me when you can't even listen to me? It's a joke. I mean, I'm not being funny, but our local town had a bit of a vote. So basically, they wanted to vote of who would turn on the Christmas lights, and it's a bit of a funny story, really. Lindsay Hoyle had been picked a few times by a few people, and it was looking good for Lindsay until somebody threw my name into the mix, and then it didn't look too good for Lindsay after that, and I won, like, outright, like overridingly won. When I say, like, I had more people wanted me to turn these Christmas lights on than Lindsay Hoyle, like, I would say by 10 times the people wanted me to turn the lights on over him. What do you think happened? He turned up to turn them on with me. He turned up to turn them on with me. It couldn't be beaten like that.
Right. So did you tell him, excuse me, Lindsay, can you start speaking up for me, please, in Parliament?
I tell him all the time. I mean, I
You
tell
tell
him
him
I
all
go
the
to
time.
I go to loads of his surgeries that he has. I ask him, I beg him to please stand up for me. I know his secretary's called Beverly. Like, we're on first name terms. Like, literally, if he sees me in the street, he probably runs and hides
I
because he
was just going
doesn't
to
want
say
to
you're
speak to
probably
me.
his worst nightmare. Yeah, he's probably thinking, "Oh my
Yeah,
God," because I think a
I
lot of
am.
MPs are like that. They don't actually really want to do anything, do they? They're just some. I mean, I'm not saying that about Lindsay. I shouldn't. I don't know. Maybe he's been a good MP before he was Speaker. I don't know, but you just think sometimes you do think again. It's like, yeah, they'll listen to you, but when you actually want something done, it's a bit like, oh my God, they're actually expecting me to do something, and they'll
It's
avoid
the
that.
frustration. It's the frustration of not having anybody to turn to. I should have an MP to turn to, be it Lindsay
Exactly.
Hoyle or be it whoever. I should
Whoever.
have somebody that can represent me in the House of Parliament and stand my ground and speak about what I want to be spoken about. Like, it shouldn't have took me 6 petitions to get water safety put on the national curriculum,
Oh,
and
so
it took
that
me
was
that.
the other thing. Yeah, you've actually got water safety on the national curriculum now.
Well, supposedly, yeah. So I've been sent a document that basically it is the national curriculum, and I think it's something like page 39. It's under safety or something like that, and it
Right.
says children to be taught fire safety alongside water safety and the water safety code. Now that's all it says. That's been added, right? So as far as I'm concerned,
Right.
on the 16th of May last year, water safety was added to the national curriculum. But it was that same month that our parliament changed. Like, we changed from
Right.
Conservatives to Labour. I don't even know
Okay.
if Labour know that it's been put on the curriculum. Never
Right.
mind whether they're
Okay.
following it. Do you know what I
Who's
mean?
who's the education secretary? I suppose they'd know, would they?
Uh,
I
at the moment, I have
can't
no idea.
remember the
When I had my last meeting with the education secretary, I had a meeting with them, and I was promised a roundtable meeting within a few weeks, which
name.
I'm still waiting for. That was probably 3 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago. I'm still waiting for the roundtable meeting, and we've probably had 3 or 4 different educational secretaries in
Oh
place
yeah,
in
because
that
with
time.
the Tories, it was just ridiculous, wasn't it? I mean, because
Well,
they were changing all the time.
it was
But,
around that time.
yeah.
It was around that time that it got put into place, when they kept having the educational minister kept changing.
Well, it's Bridget Phillipson apparently now. So let's have a look. I have seen her talking on the telly. She seems reasonably good, but yeah, she looks a bit like Rachel Reeves. Actually, she's got that look of her. They look similar. So yeah,
So
Bridget Phillipson. So I
at the
don't
moment,
know.
I'm trying to get to see her at the moment. So via a different MP, I have basically, so exactly what happens all the time happens. Somebody lost a life, and I said, you know what, this needs highlighting yet again in Parliament. We need to highlight this yet again. So this family basically wanted me to support them and to be there with them throughout the whole journey. So I got in contact. It was the same council that I made recommendations to and stuff that I was talking about before. I've been to see the MP, and their MP is trying to now get me in front of the Education Minister, the Environmental Agency executive or minister, and the Health Minister. So fingers crossed that will take place, and if it does, I can ask the questions. But if it doesn't, I'm still stuck here. People are going to continue to say statistics aren't changing, statistics aren't moving, because when Dylan drowned, we lost roughly 600 people. Today, we're losing 600 people annually every year. Now, my argument to all those people out there would be, how many more people go up and water swimming now than what did in 2011? How many more people engage in water sports than what did in 2011? So
Yeah,
don't tell me that I'm not having an effect, that
yeah.
my work is not doing anything, because it is. And I hate the fact that people are trying to hide statistics to make it look like we've reduced them when we haven't. The numbers of people that are drowning are still exactly the same or very, very similar to when Dylan drowned. But take into account there is a lot more people that go into that water. We are definitely having an effect and saving lives.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
think
other
you're
way to
right.
look at it.
There's a lot of people go wild swimming now. We were talking about that the other day. It's this trend now for wild swimming. So that has probably bumped the numbers up more than it would have been. So I think when Dylan died, I don't think wild swimming was a big thing then, was it? But now it's quite a big thing, isn't it? People.
It's massive. There's
Hey,
Hey, I've got one of them. I've left mine downstairs.
oh,
Yeah,
oh, he doesn't normally bark. I don't know what he's barking at. He said the big dog is upstairs. She barks. So I've tried to keep her upstairs, but before, I don't know if you heard her banging. She was trying to get out of the room.
I
Yeah, what
thought
are
you was
you
having
doing?
work done on your house.
No,
I thought,
this
what
is
a
a
time to have work
German
done.
Oh, and
Oh,
she's up there and she could hear me talking and she wants to come down here, but we can't have them all together because they don't get on. So she's literally banging on the door trying to get out. Anyway, she's gone quiet now, thank God.
no, we've got a little yappy Jack Russell. Don't shut up.
But yeah, it's so people are doing
Thank you,
this
Annie.
while swimming, and they're what's with they're live streaming it and do things like that. They're encouraging people to go into the water on their own. It's terrible, really, because anything could
Well,
happen to him. You know,
there's quite a famous wild swimmer. I can't remember her name, otherwise I would say it. I'm not against it. You know, at the end of the day, if you're doing it safely, in my opinion, if you're doing it safely, then it's fine as long as there's a lifeguard on hand, as long as there's somebody there to make sure that you're okay, as long as you've got buddies with you. That there is safe ways to go open water swimming. My aim has never ever been to stop open water swimmers or
no,
even to prevent them. It's to ensure that they do it safely. And you know what? If we
yeah,
work together, us water safety campaigners and open water swimmers, there might be a fighting chance here. But as you say, a lot of wild swimmers do go out there and openly promote, just go swimming here on your own, or just go swimming here on your own, or what if they do go swimming there on their own and they don't make it out? Because let's be honest, you're not going to get the blame for it, because it's not like anybody knows that they went there on your advice. And let's be honest, how many children and young people go swimming or jumping off bridges or jumping off cliffs because they see older people doing it,
yeah,
i.e. 24-year-old men thinking that they're funny because they've had a few pints, you know what I mean?
yeah.
How it's not
But
funny.
no,
What you're doing is actually you're encouraging young people, teenagers, to
to
take
take
life.
risks. Yeah,
Like that could
yeah.
cost them the life. And you know what? If anybody walked 5 minutes in my shoes, I promise you now, you would not take those risks.
So listen, Yvonne's asking there, how do you feel about RNLI who have education, but they do a lot abroad in third world countries?
Um,
What do you
Yeah,
think?
they do a lot. A lot of charities in our country do a lot of work in other countries. So drowning is a worldwide issue. We lose roughly 372,000 people every year to drowning, and a lot of
Yeah,
those are in third worlds. Now, my honest opinion is you start at home and you help
yeah.
at home. Like
Charity
you make
starts
sure that
at home. Yeah,
yeah, we need to make sure that our people are safe first before we go out trying to rescue or save other people. However, when our equipment is less likely to be used, for instance, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, I have
yeah,
no issue with that being
yeah,
donated to third world countries and stuff like that.
yeah,
I have no issue with like people being taught so that they can teach themselves. I help people in third world countries so that they can teach in their country. Do you know what I mean? I got
yeah,
asked if I could speak in a church, and I don't even know why it didn't turn off in the end up, but it didn't. And I was going to talk in this church in Cambodia, or I can't even remember where it was, somewhere, really out in the sticks that I didn't have a clue about, really, to be honest. And to be honest, before I did the talk, I would have had to educate myself so much. But I suppose, in answer to the question, I think personally that more should be done in England and in the
yeah.
UK than in other countries by, the money's coming from people in our country. It should stay
Well,
in our
that's right. It
country.
should exactly. I agree completely, even though I'm in Spain. But it's the same in Spain. That's what's happening in Spain now. They're getting much more protectionist about things that happen in their country. The thing that always gets me in Britain is you've got 6 million children who are living in going hungry and living in poverty, and then all the money that goes out to other countries, they need to sort Britain out first before they start giving it to everybody else. And I do agree with that. And because but I think what you're saying, now with the internet, as far as the education is concerned, it could be done over the internet, just like we're talking now. They don't have to go off to third world countries.
Exactly what I'm saying. This is where when I said earlier on, the money's involved. People get nice holidays, people get nice fancy dinners, people go to nice fancy restaurants, and their expenses paid. The money that gets donated doesn't go to where it should go. It goes for big fat wages and bonuses, and
everything.
It doesn't go to where it should go to.
I never donate to big charities, and I've not done for years and I've looked into it on the channel. Sometimes we've looked at CEOs and what they earn, and you think, God, are you just giving your money to pay these people's wages? And they're on massive salaries. So I like to smaller charities or things that I know the person, and I know it's literally going to them, and not to pay somebody's massive big wage who's earning more money than me, a lot more.
The amount of award ceremonies, the amount of fancy dinners, the amount of medals, the amount of just all sorts from all directions. It's just crazy.
Now, Annie's got a teenage son, and she says, after this, I'm going to speak to my teenage son about Dylan, what happened. So that's at least just another one person you'll have reached by doing this. That's it. That's what you want, I suppose, isn't it? Just reach as many people as possible. And at the end of the day, if it just saved one life a year, it's better, isn't it? That, it's great. And,
absolutely.
And I think you're like what you were saying. So you think you'd at least be able to appeal to the government by this money side of things. If it's costing £1 million, like for for Dylan to die, if you like.
Well, it'll be more than that now, won't it? It'll probably be more like 1.5, won't it? You're talking 14 years ago now.
Well, how much would it surely it wouldn't cost them that much to put some more water safety, highlight water safety more. It's preventive,
absolutely not.
Isn't it?
You know what? It's all there. This is the frustrating thing. So everything's already been produced. So there's resources out there to use in schools. There's education packs out there to be used. There's videos to be shown. There's people like myself. You've just shown that video itself. That itself to be shown to teenage kids just before the summer holidays in itself would be impactful. Maybe not on the whole school, and I'm not saying that it would stop everybody from doing something, but it would make some of them think twice. Well, certainly, without a shadow of a doubt.
There'll be some who will. Exactly, you're right. There are some personality types, character types that they'll watch that and they just be like, they just won't even take it in. But there'll be some there, that will take it in, will look at it, and they'll remember it, and they'll go home and talk to their parents about it, and it will stop them then if the day came where their friend said, "Oh, come on, let's go." And do this. They say, "Oh no, I'm not coming." And that might be just one person. But as you say, you don't know. You never know that. You don't.
Well, it's funny that you should say that. I don't know that, but so a couple of years ago, a young lady messaged me, and she basically said, "You realise you saved my boyfriend's life today, don't you?" And I was like, "What do you mean? I haven't even been in a school that day. I didn't have any clue what she was talking about." And basically, her boyfriend was about to jump into the river and go for a swim, and she said to him, "I'll let you jump in and go for a swim if you watch this lady's video first and still want to go for a swim." He watched my video, put his t-shirt back on, and decided he didn't want to go for a swim anymore. So she was like messaging me to basically say, by me showing him your video, that stopped him from going in the water. Who knows whether the lad would have drowned that day or not? He probably wouldn't. Let's be honest, but he didn't get in. He didn't take the risk because he
No.
watched the video. That was enough, you know. I had a message the other day off of the father, just thanking me for being there for him. The day after his son died. His son died probably 8-9 years ago, and he's messaged me to say that he just wanted me to know that I saved his life that day. I have people that are standing on the edge of a cliff ready to jump, messaging me, wanting to have a phone call with me, and when they call me, I'm on the phone with them for 2, 3, 4 hours. I had one guy ring me. It was a Sunday. I don't even know how he'd got my number, to tell me that his son had died the day before. He was on the phone for 4 hours. He was contemplating suicide at that point. And when he finished on the phone, he wasn't. And now he's thankful that he's still here for the kids that are still here. Do you know what I mean? He's thankful he's got grandkids now. He's thankful, he's grateful that he had these conversations with me. I'm working with families on a daily basis, and it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that. You know, I'm going to kids' inquests, you know.
Yeah.
Like I've got one coming up. I've got another that I'm probably going to have to attend. Not have to. That's the wrong word. I don't have to attend any. Don't have to do anything that I don't want to do. But I'm always going to support another family that's going through what I went through when I didn't have the support that I needed or that I could have done with at the time.
Is that the
There was
same
nobody.
coroner? Will that be with the same coroner? Is that in locally? Or
No, this is like 4 hours away where I'm going.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever bumped into Mr. Aidley since
Uh,
his inquest?
I've wrote to him and asked him to reopen the inquest on the grounds of my education, the fact that I've educated myself, the fact that I know that Dylan didn't die of cold water shock, the fact that laws were changed within a week of Dylan drowning, so you're not allowed to pronounce somebody dead cold at the side of the scene, whereas Dylan was pronounced dead cold at the side of the scene. I can't 100% even be certain that Dylan didn't have hypothermia and die in the ambulance. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I actually don't know. And actually, the thought is, you know what? Honestly, I'm going to go there. I wasn't going to bring this up, but it's been 5,003 days today since we lost Dylan, and Dylan only lived for 5,007 days, and I don't know why, but since losing Dylan, that's been the time that I've dreaded, when he's been gone longer than what he was here, and it's coming within a few days. It's coming, you know.
Okay, yeah. Gosh, yeah. It's like a significant thing, isn't it? Because up to now, so that's is it his birthday? Are you talking about, or the anniversary of when?
No,
you're talking about?
No, it's neither of those. It's literally so Dylan lived for 5,007 days. Dylan will have been dead for 5,007 days in 4 days. It's not an anniversary. You know, not necessarily all people even have this thought process during grief. I don't know why it is even a part of my thought process. I don't know why it has been such a big issue to me since losing Dylan. I don't know. I really genuinely don't know. But I just know that it has been. It's always been something that's stuck in my mind, and it's always been something that I've dreaded. And it's coming.
Have you made any plans for anything that day? Are you gonna, you're gonna do on that day? Is there, like go and visit the grave or go do anything in particular?
So we always take Dylan's anniversaries, birthdays. We take it day by day, year by year. We try and not really plan anything, or if we do, we plan something huge. So the first few years, probably first 7 years, we had massive things like firework events. We had sponsored walks where people wore silly art costumes. Well, I did a 10-mile walk in heels. We've done some pretty crazy stuff, to remember Dylan. I had blisters for weeks, let me tell you. It was awful. But the pain of having sore feet was nothing like the heartache of losing a child, in my opinion. So it was what it was. But we've done lots and lots of things. So one year we got a big building, Rivington Pike. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it. It's in Chorley. We got that lit up blue for his birthday. We've had so many things and done so many things, but it's quite spontaneous. We haven't necessarily planned to do anything on that day, but I think whatever we do, it will probably be family orientated. Whereas
Right, okay.
usually I like to involve a lot of Dylan's friends. I like to invite Dylan's friends. I like Dylan's friends to be involved in anything that I'm doing. So that's a regular thing. Every birthday, every anniversary, his friends are invited to at home. So you know, I'm fortunate enough to not have to go and sit at a cold grave, and you know,
Right, okay.
I can literally take him out of my. He's got his own little glass cabinet, if that makes sense. And he's
Yeah.
like in like a world with two hands holding the world. You wouldn't know it was an urn. You'd think it was an ornament if you came in my house. Not that it matters, and not that I care if you don't want to come in my house because my son's there. Then don't come in my house. Do you know what I mean? It's not a problem.
I think
I mean,
it's lovely.
For the first few years, I took Dylan for Christmas dinner. You know, I took him with me, and people be probably like, you know, you're strange, but that's how I dealt with grief for the first 6 months. I
Well, it
walked
must have
around with
felt like
Dylan's
you were still
t-shirt.
part of the family, you know. It's like taking him.
I didn't want that empty space. I didn't want to leave him at home on his own. It sounds stupid. Christmas is probably one of the hardest times because Dylan liked Christmas, and no matter where I go, no matter what I do, when I'm buying for my other children, they're not children anymore. My youngest is 18, but when I was buying for my children throughout these years, the hardest thing has been no matter where I go, no matter what I do, I always see something that reminds me of Dylan, or Dylan would have liked, or that I would have got that for Dylan. And Christmas shopping is a nightmare. I'm a Christmas Eve shopper, and I have been for 14 years. I do Christmas on Christmas Eve, like literally shop for 3 children, get the food in. I do it all Christmas Eve. The rest of December, I'm doing things like helping disadvantaged children get Christmas presents and stuff like that. I literally don't stop.
Yeah, well, it's lovely that you do all that. And this is something positive that has come out of this awful tragedy. You know, it's other people. I know it doesn't. You know, it's not a comfort in a way, but I think Dylan would be so proud of you. I said that to you the other day, and people were saying it in the chat. You know, I think it's so important to try and find some positivity, and I don't know how you've done it, but you have done it. It's brilliant that you've done that, and other people you know, have benefited through your sort of advocacy and that, buying presents for disadvantaged children and things like that. You know, it's lovely, you know, that you've done that. And Beckie, you are a very strong person. I think you must be. Now, would you say you were strong before, or do you think losing Dylan has made you strong?
I think I was probably strong before as well. I mean, I had Dylan when I was 17, so I was pretty headstrong.
Yeah, you were young, weren't you? Yeah.
I wanted to be a lawyer when I was younger, and then I found out that I was pregnant. No, and then I found out I was pregnant when I was 17, and then the only thing that I wanted to do was be a good mum, and I feel like I failed at that. I feel like I just failed.
Failed at that. You haven't failed at that, and but you know, I do you know, it's like, I know you feel this sort of feeling that you wish you could have educated Dylan better about water safety, but then nobody had educated you, had they, about water safety? So it's this, but it's thing is, we were saying the other day, there's nothing you can do about what's happened, but the way you're progressing forward. That's all you can do, is make the best of what's happening. You've done so well with the difference that you've made to other people. You know, unfortunately, of course, it doesn't bring Dylan back, but I'm sure Dylan is very, very proud of you. Now, sorry, just changing the subject. Well, it's not really changing the subject, but I'd like you to. You told me because you've won a lot of awards as well through your advocacy. You've been given, I don't know if one's the right word. You've been awarded a lot of awards. One maybe is not the right word. Tell us about the awards that you've been given, and especially your special award that you've got at Buckingham Palace.
So basically it started off pretty, I suppose what you would expect, maybe if somebody's doing a bit of advocacy work. I started getting like local awards from local radio stations and stuff like that. Then it started to be a little bit bigger than that. And ROSPA, which is the Royal Society for Prevention of Accidents, which is a massive, I don't know if it's a charity or an organisation, but it's huge anyway. They met the laws kind of where working's concerned, so like bending and lifting and stuff like that. They invited me to a celebration, an award ceremony, should I say. And they started talking about this woman, and I'm thinking, wow, this woman sounds absolutely amazing. And then all of a sudden I realise it's me that they're talking about, and it's me that they're actually giving the award to. And I'm like, oh my God, how big-headed is that? I've literally just been sat there thinking this woman's amazing, and it's me. So I've gone up on stage, bright red, and they've given me an Archangel Award. And I believe that there's only been a handful of them given out and they're over 100 years old, ROSPA. So for only a handful to have been given out, it's quite an accolade. It's the highest accolade that they give out, the Archangel Award. I'm sure a lot of business.
Is it like, what's it look? Is it like an angel? Is it like a?
No, it's a plaque that just says it's an Archangel Award, and if you Google it, obviously you can see that I'm one of very few that have ever had one.
Right,
You know what I mean?
might Google it in a minute. Where have you put it? Just out of interest, where is it?
Most of my awards are in Dylan's cabinet.
Right.
Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold. So most of my awards are in Dylan's cabinet. So I also got a BBC award. I got a BBC Lancashire award. I then got a Parliament award. I got a Petition of the Year award. So I got an award from Parliament. I got a British Empire Medal off the Queen. I met Prince William, and we collaborated on a joint thing called Safer Thames, which was basically trying to reduce suicides in the River Thames. So obviously my water safety, his mental health work coincided. So I got to meet him for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
And what's he like? What's he like?
Oh, he's absolutely everything that he's like on TV, everything that he's like that you see, he is what he is. He's exactly how he is. So like, I'm quite a common lass from Chorley, you know, you can take the girl out of Chorley, whatever the saying is, but I'm on this amazing ship thing, yacht, whatever you want to call it, that's £30,000 a night. Never seen anything like it in my life. And I'm climbing on tables trying to get pictures of Prince William because I'm thinking I'm never going to see this guy again. Do you know what I mean? It's my one and only opportunity. There's a lady with me and she's saying, you know, you can't be doing that. It's not respectable. And I'm like, listen, you do you today, love, and I'll do me. I'm climbing on these tables and I'm getting me pictures. So he gets on, and I said to him, I had 2 T-shirts for him, doing it for Dylan T-shirts. And I basically said, I've got you 2 T-shirts. His wife at the time was doing the Chelsea Flower Show. So I said, I've got you 2 T-shirts, one for you and there's one for your beautiful wife, Kate. I said, she can even wear it when she's gardening. I thought, you absolute idiot. Why did you say that? You know, what a thing to say. And then it got worse. And I turned around and said, in Chorley, we wear our T-shirts in bed, so you can just wear it in bed if you want. So I literally told the future King of England he could wear a Doing It for Dylan T-shirt in bed.
That's worn it in bed.
You never know. You never know. He might have used it for something. Then I met Princess Eugenie. She was lovely. She was really nice.
Tell everybody about what, because you had a choice of who to go to, didn't you, when you went to pick up your what's it called? British something award.
British Empire Medal. So basically, I got my British Empire Medal off the Lord Lieutenant in Lancaster. So I went to Lancaster Castle to collect that. But because you get a British Empire Medal, you're not awarded it from a royal person. So you get invited to the royal party, the garden party. So that's why I got my invite to the royal garden party. When I met Princess Eugenie, that was because ROSPA was 100 years old and I'd been invited by ROSPA to go and attend the garden party, which is when obviously you get put into 2 groups, and then I was asked, do you want to go down Andrew's aisle or do you want to go down Eugenie's aisle? Now I'm like girl power, I'm going for the girl, let's go down Eugenie's aisle. Obviously, in light of what has come out, I'm so glad, because I'd have to take off my pictures off my social medias, you know.
Yeah, because you don't have Prince Andrew. You'd have to block him out or put a different face on him or something. But
I'd have to do something. Yeah, I don't know what I'd have to do,
what
but I'd have to do
like?
something.
Did you get a chance to talk to her, Eugenie? Was she nice?
Yeah. She was lovely. So you basically, when you go to the garden party, if you're in the line to go and meet the royals, you get a royal etiquette talk. Now, I don't know where I was at this royal etiquette talk. Maybe I was on the toilet. I don't know. I hold my hands up. I missed it. I didn't get it. So Eugenie comes over and she walks towards me. She says, hello, and how are you doing? What are you here for? Why have you been invited? So I start telling a Dylan story, and I put my arms out to give her a hug. Now, this is 3 days or 2 days after the Manchester Arena bombing. So we've got snipers on Buckingham Palace roof at this point.
God. Yeah.
I've gone to give her a hug, and in the royal protocol, you're not allowed to touch the
You're not
royals.
supposed to touch
You're not
them.
allowed to touch them. So at this point, I've probably got 10 guns on my head, pointed at my head.
God.
So, but she's hugged me back, which she's probably not allowed to do either, to be fair. So we've had a little moment, we've had a little hug. Then I've given her a picture of Dylan, and she's walked away with this picture of Dylan. There's 4 people in a line, if that makes sense. She spoke to me, she's gone to the next person, gone to the next person, got to the last person, and then I remembered that I had something that I wanted to tell her that I'd forgotten to tell her, so I shouted her back. And you're not allowed to do that either.
You're doing everything you weren't allowed to do. But,
yeah, but I'm getting noticed. And like the way I see it is, imagine the week after, like, so 1 week I've met Prince William, a couple of weeks later I've met Princess Eugenie, or vice versa, whichever way around it was. And then they've gone to Granny's, which is the Queen, and they sat around Sunday dinner table and they're having the dinner and they're talking about who they've met this week. And they both say, we met a girl called Rebecca with red hair and she lost her son to drowning. Who knows? Who knows?
Well, you never know. And you nearly met the Queen, didn't you? Tell us again about what you told me the other day about you thought the Queen was just about to come out.
So I was at the last ever garden party that the Queen was alive for. Now I'm 99.9% certain that the Queen was actually in situ in Buckingham Palace, because the whole rest of the royal family was there for a starter. So I've seen all the rest of the royal family, William, Kate, all of them. And I'm pretty certain that the Queen was there, because literally within, so basically everybody comes out, all the royals come out at 4 o'clock on the dot. They're not a second late. They 4 o'clock on the dot they come out. I'd say at about 4 minutes to 4 it started drizzling, not raining, just drizzling. But the Queen was obviously in poor health, so I think any change of weather, she was never going to come out. Do you know what I mean? Next thing, the garden party sets off, and about 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later maybe, a nice helicopter goes from the royal grounds, which I personally believe the Queen was in. I also believe that I've seen the helicopter go over me when the Queen passed away. I was on the motorway when she was coming back to London.
Ah, right, yeah, because she went to Balmoral, didn't she? She died at Balmoral, so yeah, it's probably taking her off to Balmoral, and like you say, then bringing her back. Then bless her, because my chatters, they know I'm not a royalist generally, but I had a lot of admiration and respect for the Queen. But I bet they loved you there, Rebecca, because they liked Yvonne saying here, you've been authentic, and thing is, you can only be yourself, can't you, in life? There's no point in, don't matter if you're meeting the king, who you're meeting, you can only be yourself. And I do think they do feel that,
I say, I'm like Marmite, you love me or hate me. It's one of them.
And
I'm not bothered with. No, I don't. I really don't care, because it doesn't impact my life what you think of me, if that makes sense. So if you can go away and have a negative, if I waste my energy on thinking, oh, somebody doesn't like me, or somebody thinks what I'm doing is not worthwhile, or at the beginning of doing it for Dylan, I got told some horrible things, like people asking me, what do you think you're doing for Dylan when he's not even here, when he's dead? Like, what a thing to say. People saying, oh, on the day that Dylan died, it was survival of the fittest. Dylan drowned because he wasn't as fit as his friends. I got some horrible stuff thrown at me. I got trolled. Honestly, it was horrific, but I had to fight through it. I have to stand up and fight through it and show my kids that that's what you do. Or I crumble and lay in my bed every day and show my kids that's what you do. And I'm pretty sure all your listeners out there would would want to do what I've done. Whether they'd have the strength to do it or not, you know, everybody's different, but I'm sure most people would want to get up and get out there and do something. You know, as far as I'm concerned, people are still meeting Dylan, and Dylan's been gone for 14 years, and people are still meeting him even now to this day. And he's been gone for almost 14 years. That's a legacy in itself. You know, when you Google doing it for Dylan Ramsay, Rebecca Ramsay, there's pages and pages and pages of us on Google. It's like, how have we even done all that? How are we even here? You know, and I look back and I feel like sometimes I look back and I've just almost blinked and it's 14 years have gone.
I was just going to say, it probably feels like it was just yesterday, but yeah, you're right. I think as long as people are talking about Dylan, again, we were talking about this the other day, as long as his name's out there and people are talking about him and people are looking at his photos and etc. and videos, he's still here, you know, as well.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, he is anyway, he's around you and everything, but, you know, just that's that step further, you know, not only you're helping other children and other people, but Dylan, as long as his name's been mentioned and his face is out there, he is still here, isn't he?
Exactly.
And I know he's forever 13. But something I wanted to, oh gosh, there's so many things I want to say now. So first of all, the trolls. Can you believe it that anybody would say anything horrible? I mean, it's just, people are just weird, aren't they?
I've literally got on my TikTok, so I've only had a TikTok account for maybe a year and a half. I thought I'd try my hand at it. And I did a live one night, and I've literally got a TikTok where somebody came in with a picture of Dylan pretending to be Dylan, and then it was a young girl, and she was basically saying to me, it was around Halloween time, and she was basically saying to me that, oh, did I want her to make me a pumpkin because Dylan couldn't, and she knew that Dylan was dead and blah. And I ended up being the one that got the violation for it off TikTok. She didn't get her account removed. Even though the press got involved and everything, I was the one that got the violation for it because I obviously lost the plot and I was swearing and screaming and shouting at her, you know, like any grieving parent would if somebody like that comes into your life. Do you know what I mean? I was asking her, why on earth do you think this is okay to do this to somebody? Luckily, I'm a strong person and I can text somebody trolling me in that kind of way, but not everybody could. Some people that would push them over the edge. Some people that would be enough for them to just go and jump off a bridge. You know, who are you, a little child, like, to be coming in here and why have your parents not taught you any morals?
Well, that's right. We were saying, you know, she's obviously quite a sad person because, you know, anyone who would do that, they've got to be a pretty sad person, haven't they, really? Because who would think of doing that? You know, even if they didn't have any empathy for you because maybe they're just not that sort of person. But how many people would actually put his picture as their profile picture, go in there and say horrible things? That takes a special sort of weirdo, doesn't it? Like, so you can almost feel sorry for them, really, because they've obviously got big problems. You know,
that was my concern. My concern is if they're doing that on the internet, what's happening at home for them? You know what I mean? Why are they hitting out me in that way?
Well, do you actually know who it was in the end, or you don't
know? No. I mean, like, it's one of them,
aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Social media companies, they've got a lot to answer for. My personal opinion is, like, same with everything, Twitter, YouTube, I don't think people should be allowed to have false accounts, you know, to have accounts that have, you know, because some people, that's what I've noticed with trolls as well, they have about 10 different accounts and they're just faceless accounts with weird, you know, so they're not real people. But what I've learned since I've been on YouTube, because at first that would have, anybody saying anything horrible to me, at first it was like, oh my God, you know. Now, honestly, it's literally water off a duck's back. And it's funny how it's sort of, you know, it's happened over time. I mean, so maybe occasionally, maybe if I'm in a bad, you know, we all have bad days, maybe I think, oh, you know, but rarely. And my son's been really helpful with that, because my son, of course, he's we were saying he's 28, but he's grown up with social media and he's given me a lot of advice advice about social media. In fact, you know, he'll say to me, "It's just YouTube, Mum. Why are you taking any notice of when people say something horrible?" So once you see how it's going, just delete it, or you know what, just ignore it, delete it. In fact, he doesn't even say delete it, because he says it helps your algorithm. Just leave it. But
I was just about to say the same thing. I was just about to say, you know what? It's really, really true that even bad press is good for you. Like, so even when you're going through a hard time or somebody's being horrible to you, it just means that more people be nice to you.
Yeah, it's right.
You know what I mean?
People will see that, you know, and they'll gang up against that. That's what my chatters do. They're very good. You know, we do occasionally get trolls, very rarely, but occasionally, and they're right on them. You know, it's like, which is nice.
And the way I see it is, if they're trolling me, they're leaving somebody else alone. Somebody probably more vulnerable, you know, that can't take it. You know, give it me all you want, because you know what, you're not going to hurt me. You know, and I say this to these trolls. I say, you know what, you think you can hurt me, but I lost a child. You tell me one thing that's going to hurt me more than that. Tell me one thing, because it's nothing. There's nothing going to hurt me more than that.
Do your worst, you know, because you know, I've been through this and I'm still here, so you're not.
I'm still standing. Exactly, I'm still standing.
And my son as well. The other thing my son said, which is interesting, really, and because of course he gives me a different view on it, is I'll let them have their little troll, Mum. They haven't got much in their life, so just let them have their little troll, because it probably helped them in their lives for whatever reason. And I thought, well, they shouldn't do that. And he said, it don't matter, just let them have their little troll. And
the way I see it is, you can always turn it off. That's you know, we can turn. It's just social media, YouTube. It's just Facebook. It's just TikTok. You know what? You'd not be human if you said it didn't affect you ever at all. Of course, some things are gonna always affect you. But I agree with you, son. You've got to just, you know, leave it there, and sometimes just be like, you know what, it is what it is. Like, there's some absolutely awful people out there, and you know, there's some really, really amazing people out there. And I'm not even saying that there's a balance, because there's probably more horrible people, more nice people than horrible people, you know. So I'm not even saying that there's a balance, but there's
always going to be that percentage. And it's sort of almost like, you know, once you put yourself out there on social media, you do leave yourself open. You've sort of almost got to just accept that 5% or whatever it is, probably less than 5%.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it is good. But it's funny sometimes, you know, because I'm a Spanish teacher as well. And my students, sometimes, they always sort of beat themselves up about how they're not learning, you know, they're not coming on quick enough, or they didn't remember this, or they did. So say they do an exercise where they've got 10 questions and they get, let's say 20, they get 19 right, do it perfectly, they get one wrong, and then they're like, oh God, I can't believe I got that one wrong, I can't believe it. So people, sometimes you've got to be careful about focusing on that one negative thing. And that's what I always say to them. I say, God, if you did an exam and you got 95% in an exam, would you be happy? Oh yeah, that'd be really good. So you've done 20 questions, you've got one wrong, so you've got 90% or whatever. But sometimes it's difficult not to just focus on that one negative thing.
Like, and especially if you think that you should have got it right. If you think you should have got it right, that's always a bit of a
no. And you have to. It's like that with trolls, I think, because you sort of like, and as you say, it depends what mood you're in. There's probably some days where you won't care what anyone said to you, you just can't. And then there'll be other days, maybe like because it's a special anniversary, or it's you know, some things happen that's made you more vulnerable than normal, where it will affect you more than other days, because we're all human. We just have our good days, our bad days. You know, and I think sometimes people think, you know, trolls, that's people that are on the telly or for whatever they're doing. You know, they think that they don't have any feelings, or they don't, you know, because it's just like, oh well, you know, you're out there. And I think people sometimes, they don't even think about it. They're just scrolling down their phone, and they sort of just key in a thought that comes into the head as if they were just thinking it out loud. Sometimes, you know, they don't really realise that that's a real person they're talking to.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people don't understand what they're saying, how it might be perceived. You know, they might not be saying it the way that it comes across sometimes as
Yeah,
well, you know. And then there is some days where I will argue back with trolls, you know. There's some
yeah.
days where I think, you know what, I'm going to give back as much as what you give to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I had a comment. I mean, it's totally nothing to do with this, but someone had made a comment. I was so wanted to answer it because they were saying about Elon Musk, because I don't like Elon Musk, and I'd been told about homeless people and that Elon Musk what he could do with all that money instead of sending rockets up and polluting the planet, you know, because they're always exploding and what have you. And this guy made this comment. I said he could help the homeless, you know. And he said, "Oh, why don't you sell your jewelry to help the homeless?" He said, or something. And he started going on about Elon Musk, how brilliant he was, and this, that, and the other. And that, oh God, I was that far. You know, I mean, it didn't bother me really what he said, but I just, sometimes you want to answer them, but it's better not to anyway. I didn't answer him because I
Yeah,
won't dignify him with a reply. I mean, that's just a small thing, but how it's like, you know, it's just the way he's saying to me, "Oh, sell your jewelry to help the homeless," and like, but Elon Musk is fine what he's doing. You know, just people are strange. They come out with all sorts of things. But the worst thing that does happen sometimes is people troll. When I talk about victims and their families or whatever, it's amazing what people come out with sometimes, and you just think, what lack of compassion can you have, or lack of empathy can you have to make a comment about a victim's family that's grieving? Just doesn't
exactly.
make sense, does it? But
There's so many nasty people out there. But like I say, I think the good outweigh the bad. So we've got to look at the positives and yeah,
I
like
think,
just ignore the trolls.
and ignore the trolls. Yeah, that's what they say. Don't feed the trolls, don't they? But like you say, it's hard sometimes. I expect sometimes, like you say, you just think, you know, what, and you want to reply to them. It's difficult, but it's difficult not to sometimes, isn't it? But
If I've had a really bad day, then I'll use a troll as my emotional punch bag, you know, and I'll give them what for,
get
and
it
they can
all
give me
out on
what
the
for.
troll.
Yeah, I'll get it all out on the troll.
So
Yeah.
what sort of things do you say, like, would you say to them, well, what are you exactly doing? Because what I normally say to them is, what positive impact are you having on this world? You
Do you
know,
know what?
that's what I say to them. What do you do that's positive?
To be
And they
quite
go,
honest with you, most people that have trolled me, I've ended up educating them about water safety, and they've actually
oh,
turned out to either be sorry that they said what they said in the first place, or just took back what they said in the first place. And that can be from a comment on a newspaper article. You could look at loads of different drowning newspaper articles where I've made comment that the government should do more or whatever, and then somebody's probably commented to me saying, you know, it's down to the parents, and then I'll argue back, but what about if the parents don't know? I mean,
yeah,
I got a bird's eye. You know what bird's eye is, obviously fish fingers and that. I got a
yeah.
bird's eye advert changed because they
Oh,
didn't put the right safety measures in place. They didn't say the right things. Actually got it. It took off television because it was wrong.
right.
Like it
Okay.
is. It's crazy. It's crazy.
What was it? What was it? Were they on the boat or whatever with the cat? What was the thing they were doing wrong in there?
So basically, the slogan was it was when the new Captain Birdseye came out a few years ago, and it was like Captain Birdseye loves nothing better than watching his grandson go swimming in cold water on a hot day. Now, my problem
Oh,
there was the
yeah,
reference to hot day and cold water should never be used in the same sentence. That is not in the, it
no,
shouldn't be done.
no.
So I contacted Birdseye. I said I was absolutely disgusted. I tell you why I was disgusted, because my daughter was questioning what I was teaching. So I was questioning Birdseye. How dare you get my daughter to question me when what I'm teaching is factual and what you're doing is just selling fish fingers and putting an advert out on telly showing a young lad. Anyway, they couldn't believe it. They couldn't actually believe it. They said, could they have a meeting with me that night at 5 o'clock? I didn't think they were taking it that seriously, but because they was having a meeting with me, they was taking it somewhat seriously. Little did I know that at 5 o'clock, I think the CEO of Birdseye was there. There was about 5 people around a table, and they was seriously taking my concerns very, very, very seriously, to the point of they explained to me that they put in a lot of safety measures in place when this young boy did this advert, and they couldn't understand how it had been let to go out without being any warning signs or anything on it. So they changed the advert to be in Captain Birdseye loves nothing better than watching his grandson swim. And that they just left it at that. And I thought, right, all right. They took the hot day and the cold water reference out.
Yeah.
You know, I'll leave them at that. About a week went by, and then they contacted me again and said, we don't think we've gone far enough, and we've took the reference to the little boy out in total. So basically now the advert says Captain Birdseye loves nothing better than a sunset.
Then what?
He loves nothing better than a sunset.
They thought, oh God, yeah, just take the child out of it completely. Yeah, it looks nothing better than a sunset.
Yeah, nothing
But
better than a sunset.
that's it's brilliant. That just shows you the power, though, if you like, they've gotten. Obviously, they wouldn't have thought whoever's come up with that slogan in the beginning has just been you know, they haven't thought
They've just been
children at risk.
The focus was on the new Captain Birdseye because he was a hot Captain Birdseye, so the focus was on him, and I don't think anybody ever thought about the little boy. It's almost like I've had to argue with supermarkets because they don't put warnings on their inflatables, so they sell big giant unicorns, for instance, but they don't tell you that you're not to go to sea with them because you're going to float off and you might end up in English Channel, French Channel, or whatever. They just sell them you. Do you know what I mean? And we did actually have a breakthrough about 6 months ago on the paddling pools in Aldi, and it is only Aldi, so I'm only giving Aldi a shout out here. But on the paddling pools in Aldi, they now have a sign on, and it says, it's a bit of like information saying, always have a water watcher if you've got children playing in the paddling pool. Always have somebody watching the children. And you know, it's not major, it's not massive steps, but little steps.
Exactly, little steps add up to big steps. Now Yvonne's just asking there, do you have a charity where people can donate to your work? Would that be on your website?
You can donate. I don't think you can at the moment because my PayPal's down. So I think from my website, I think if you try and donate, it'll say not eligible to take donations at this time because basically what I've done is I've swapped phones and my PayPal's hooked up to my old phone. Because I can't get into my old phone because I don't have it anymore, they won't accept my new phone number. So I've got money locked in a PayPal that I can't get out, and I'm having loads of trouble with it. I'm actually set up at the moment as a limited company because that's the only thing I could do. But I have got going forward plans to become a charity. So I was going to become a charity probably 2 years ago, and unfortunately one of my board members passed away, and one of my other board members ended up with breast cancer. So a bit of a halt was put to that at that stage, and I had to keep it as a limited company. But because it's a limited company, anything that anybody donates, the taxman takes most of it because I'm too scared to bloody touch it. So
is there no way that people can contribute towards your sort of expenses and things? I mean, how can people?
They can donate. I can give doing it. I've got doing it for Dylan's got its own bank account, but I just want to make people aware it's not a charity. It's not got a registered charity number. It's a limited company. Anything that comes out of it is used for doing it for Dylan. Obviously, I've got an accountant. Obviously, everything has to be accounted for. I can't just go on holiday without that money or anything like that. And I know it sounds a little bit contradictory because at the beginning I said, you know, I'm self-funded and everything else. I am self-funded. I have had the odd person like Yvonne in the comments that has asked me, is there any way that I can donate? I have had the odd school ask me, is there any way I can donate? And that's the only way that I could do it, so that I could do it legit without it coming into my account and then people questioning what I was doing with that money. I wanted to keep it totally separate. I want to be totally see-through. I don't want anybody to say to me, you know what, I don't even want anybody to say you spent £1 of that money in the wrong way. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't happen. It wouldn't happen.
You know, anyway, money always gets complicated, doesn't it, with things? But you need. So if you send me I can put the details in a community post, or I can talk. I mean, how can I'd like to sort of you know, put that out there, because people probably will want to donate something.
I mean, I can send you the bank details and you can put them out there, because obviously nobody can take anything out of the account. They can only put it in. And obviously that's the bonus. If they want to put it in and they don't want to take it out.
But you've no PayPal. There's not a PayPal we can use at the moment. No,
not at the moment, just because of this phone number problem, which is it is driving me bonkers, because I can't even at the moment remove the link. So I don't even like the link being on the website, if that makes sense, because it doesn't look good, because as soon as you click it, it says you can't donate.
You can't donate.
It's
a shame, because PayPal is the easiest way, isn't it? But
I was thinking of setting up a totally new one, and just doing it like maybe
why not do that?
Just,
you just need
literally
an email.
scrap that.
You
doing it from
need
a
an
different
email. And
I
know what I've used PayPal for years, like with people paying for Spanish classes and all that. So and when there is a phone number, you can phone them. They're quite good, actually, because I had a problem once with I won't go into the whole story. An event, I tried to do it sort of like virtually, over thing. Was getting nowhere, and then suddenly I realised you could phone them. It's not easy to find the phone number. I don't think they encourage people. But I did phone them, and they sorted it out. Literally, the girl, she was great. The woman sorted it out within 10 minutes. The problem that I had. So there is a phone number. They might
that's been my problem. That's been my problem, not being able to find an actual contact number to contact them to try and sort it out. Like I'm
otherwise
just
you just
literally
get
at a loss.
the automated replies, don't you? And then they just and you
sometimes just push the phone down at the end of it. It just puts the phone down anyway, doesn't it? At the end, let's be honest. It says thank you for calling. See you later. Bye. That's always the end one.
I know, because PayPal is good until it goes wrong, like everything else. All these things in this society we live in now, they're good, but until they go wrong, and then you can't get talk to a normal person, can you?
Exactly. I mean, I've got Sharon Davis, the Olympic swimmer from the 80s. She's like my patron, so she supports everything that I do. She's the patron of doing it for Dylan. Then I've got an ex-chief fire officer who's on my board. I've got a man that used to work for ROSPA, who was the highest guy in ROSPA for water safety. He doesn't work for ROSPA anymore. He works for the World Health Organization, but he's still on my board. I've got numerous people that actually support what I do, but then, like I said, the big massive organizations, they would rather try and take the credit for what I do, if that makes sense.
It does.
Australia, Australia is amazing for water safety, and the amount of hints and tips that I get from Australia. I've got a friend over there, and she sends me stuff on a regular basis, and it's honestly, you are so advanced over there. If only the UK could be half as advanced as what you are. It's unbelievable.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think the UK is not so advanced? Because it's such a small country. You'd think a small country would be easier to sort of communicate all this out to, whereas Australia is a massive country. Now, I've got to say that here in Spain is probably not brilliant, the water safety, because Spain is not well known for its health and safety regulations, let's say. Now, having said that, the pool, we've got a pool here in my little village. It's only open in the summer, July and August, but there's always a lifeguard,
I've had messages from people that have gone on holiday to Spain, and literally they've said the lifeguard will go on the dinner and leave the pool unattended for 2 hours between 12 and 2, which is probably the busiest time. And then there's literally messaging me saying there's paramedics here working on a 2-year-old kid, because the child's fallen in the water and there hasn't been a lifeguard on hand. It's ridiculous. And one of my one of the things that I've wanted to get into, I've got so many plans because I don't have the money. I can't put the plans into action. So other organisations end up taking the plans, ideas, and using them, rolling with them, if that makes sense. But one of the plans that I've got, and I'm not quiet in saying what, like, the plans and my dreams and aspirations and stuff, and that's why people take them as well, I suppose. But one of the things I would really like to see is for information packs and like colouring in or spot the dangers or stuff like that on aeroplanes, so that when families are actually going on holiday, the kids are learning water safety while they're in the sky before they even get abroad. So even if it's just spot the dangerous things around this pool, spot, colour this lifeguard and this picturing, for teenagers, maybe a little bit of an advert throughout the film that's played or on the plane or whatever. Now, I have gone to TUI and I have gone to British Airways, but nobody's really taking me on. But what I would imagine will happen is these big airlines will do this themselves and then take credit for it themselves.
You tried Ryanair?
No, not really, no.
Because he's quite hands-on, that guy, isn't he, Michael O'Leary? Like he's, I think he's someone you could actually get to talk to personally, because although it's a big company, but he's like a micromanager, isn't he? He gets involved in it. That might be,
I think,
that might be a possibility. And I was just thinking, I mean, of course, on the beaches here, they only have lifeguards in the summer. So there'll be lifeguards like at Easter, and then when the summer season starts, probably June, July, August maybe. But the rest of the year, there's nobody on the beaches or anything to, so quite often people do drown, even when there's lifeguards there. But I think sometimes that is because they underestimate the currents. Because here in this area, in the Mediterranean Sea, it looks very calm on the surface most of the time. But there's currents underneath, and there's certain beaches that are notorious. Like if you live here, when my son was little, there are beaches I wouldn't have ever taken him to, because I knew, because living here all the year round, I knew that they were dangerous beaches where people died regularly. But if you're out on holiday, you don't know that these are dangerous beaches, so that's like the local knowledge as well. So
exactly.
I don't know what they can do, but I mean, you can't really sort of fence off a beach, do you know what I mean? So I don't know what they can do about that.
Well, in the UK, we have one beach, one place called Camber Sands. And literally 7 people drowned there at one time in one summer. And it turned out, the press reported that the parking for one weekend alone for that beach would cover a lifeguard on that beach for a whole year.
Yeah, just shows you what priorities are. So
there was no lifeguard.
Where is that the parking going?
You tell me. And I absolutely agree with your point there as well about the swimming pools closing down. This is a massive problem that we've got. And they're not in a good state, and they are freezing, and they're not paying the bills, and they are closing down left, right, and centre. And all I can really say to that is that we have to keep fighting to keep these places open, because at the very bare minimum, we need to be able to learn to swim and obviously learn water safety. Now, in my opinion, again, it is only my opinion, I think that learning to swim is we're teaching our kids just enough to die. We are basically teaching our children just enough to die, because we're teaching them how to swim and leading them into a false sense of security that they can swim in any water. We're not differentiating a swimming pool to open water. We're just teaching them to swim in a swimming pool and telling them that their water safety is swimming in the pajamas, going through a hula hoop and picking up a brick. Let's be honest, that's not really changed since I was a child. I'm 44 and I did that. That was my water safety at school. That was the limit. That was the extent of my water safety knowledge. I didn't get told about cold water shock. I didn't get told about undercurrents. I didn't get told about water temperatures suddenly changing. I didn't get told that you could be rushed off in the blink of an eye in a rip current. I didn't get told that You know, I didn't get told no lifeguard, no swimming. You know, a lot of people, a lot of people come to me and they say, you know, well, we did it when we were a kid and we got away with it. And yeah, you know what? We all did silly things as children, but are we never to move forward just because we did them as children? It's like people say to me, well, you know, why are you being a stickler? Why are you being a sticky mud? Why are you trying to stop everybody's enjoyment from going swimming? Why are you trying to stop people from going out in open water? I'm not trying to stop you from going in open water. I'm not trying to be a stickler. I'm not trying to spoil your fun. What I'm trying to do is make sure you get home to your family and that your mum and your dad and your brothers and your sisters don't feel like me and my family do on a daily basis. And that takes a lot, especially when I get now a lot, and this is really frustrating, but I get a lot of it. So somebody will drown, and then one of the first things that somebody will say is, well, don't you think it's down to parents? It happens all year, every year, blah, 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 blah. I'm not being funny. Yes, it does happen all year, every year, and it is always on the news. How many 15-year-olds are sitting there watching the news? How many 16-year-olds are sitting there watching the news? How many are listening to radio and listening to me waffle on about my son losing his life? My message doesn't get broadcast to the right people. It doesn't get given to the right audience. It gets given to, you know, people that are empathetic to my situation, people that feel sorry for me, people. I don't want sympathy. I don't need people to feel sorry for me.
You just
You know,
want
I
to
want.
get your message out.
Yeah, yeah, that's, you know what, that's exactly it. They go out on the paddle boards, they've got no life jackets. Sometimes they can't even swim, these people. They're going out on paddle boards thinking that they're going to be able to stay stood up. One little brisk of wind and they get blown off, and that's it. They're in water and they're in trouble. Do you know what I mean? Like, stop thinking that you are. It's right. To put, this is how I say it at schools. This is the easiest way I can actually put it in most layman's terms, in my opinion. And that is, you go out and you learn to drive a car properly. You go out, you get driving lessons, you learn to drive a car. That does not give you the skill to go and drive a Formula One car around a Formula One track. Just because you learn to swim in a swimming pool, that does not give you the ways and means,
Swim
the
anyway.
knowledge to swim anywhere. It's different. It's totally different. And until our children and young people are told this and taught this, until it's drummed into their heads, that we're going to continue to see drownings, because we're continuing to see people learn to swim. So obviously, like this person's already said in the chat, the swimming pools are closing down. It's hot. People think I'm invincible. It's not going to happen to me. You know, I've done it before. There's lots of things. There's lots of reasons why people go into open water. There's lots of reasons why people go swimming in open water.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Annie's saying it's true what you're saying. Kids do think once they can swim, they can go and swim anywhere. You know.
Exactly.
And
There's nothing told to them. Nobody says to these children when they do the swimming in year 6 or year 5 or year 4, whatever year they choose to do it in at school. Nobody then sits there and gives them a water safety lesson about the difference between that nice, warm, clean, sanitized, lifeguarded swimming pool to a dirty, murky, unsanitized lock, for instance, or a lake or whatever. Do you know what I mean? They're not given.
Sorry, this just leads me around to what I've been wanting to ask you. So how does it work with you? Do you get invited by schools? Do you write to them and say, can I come? How does it work for the talks that you do at schools?
So first of all, I used to have to bang my head against a brick wall and ring them and ring them and ring them and ring them and ring them, because they didn't really want a grieving mum in who they weren't sure what I were going to say. Do you know what I mean? They weren't sure that I were going to add any value to the education system, or whether I were just going to come in as a grieving mum crying, I've lost my son. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's, no school wants you to go in and just talk about the grief side of things.
No.
They want their children to be educated. So that at first it was very, very hard to get into schools. Now I am inundated, like literally schools contact me all year round. And you 9 times out of 10 you find if I'm in a school 1 year, I'm in it then for the next 10, 15. I'm never not in it again. You know, for the for the foreseeable, they always book me in for the following year. They want me in. There's a school at the bottom of my road, because it's so local. As soon as I finish my talk, she books me in for the following year to teach year 6s. So I know at that school for the past 10 years at least, every single solitary year 6 pupil has had a water safety lesson because I've given
Yeah.
it to them.
It's brilliant, and it's fantastic that. And like
True.
Bertan's saying here, kids don't know about currents. Even adults don't. Like as I say, that happens here near me all the time. People they go into the sea, even when there's lifeguards there, and if they're lucky, they get rescued. But sometimes they can't rescue them in time. But they'll go in, and do you know what happens every year, Becky, which just shows out, so people say how stupid people can be sometimes. So the red flag's flying, and which means don't go in the water, and everyone's going in the water, and the lifeguards are literally sat there having to whistle, get down, go to the thing, get them out of the water. You feel like saying, oh, go on then, just go. I bet they feel like saying that sometimes, because
we have
why don't they respect the red flag? I would never go in the water if there was a red flag.
I have no idea why they don't respect the red flag, but I do know that in inland waters we have similar problems. So we have to have police dispersal orders around certain quarries that are well used, well known to be used. So we've got a particular quarry that's not the quarry that Dylan died in, but it is pretty local to me. And a couple of years ago, we had to make a video with the fire service. We made a video with the police. We had police all around the quarry stopping people from getting in. We had police on different railway stations. So if anybody was going to this specific place with a towel, we knew why they was going there. They was being refused entry onto the train. How much money must that have cost just to have that one dispersal order in place?
Yeah.
That must have cost a bloody fortune.
Yeah. It's really, the more you think about it, as I say, not only just kids, adults. And if the adults are not sensible, then the kids aren't going to be sensible either, are they? So I'm just wondering how you can get to these adults as well, But I suppose all you can only do what you're doing, which is get out your message wherever you possibly can. And hope that somewhere along the line, it has, even just being on this stream tonight, there's a few of them there in the chat that said, oh, they're going to talk to their kids afterwards, because it just, sometimes people just don't think about it either.
I think that's the problem. That is the problem. The problem is that we are surrounded by water because we're an island nation. So obviously we take our children to the beach and we don't really think much of it because that's the done thing in summer. So then when our kids then go out on their own and come across quarries, lakes, rivers, reservoirs, whatever, we've took them as parents to the beach. We've introduced them to that open water, but we haven't told them anything about it. We haven't warned them. We haven't, because we don't know. And you're absolutely right. Until everybody's educated, then we're not going to get anywhere. But it has to start somewhere. So if we started now at primary school, if we'd have started 14 years ago, we'd be 14 years in front now. 14 years worth of people would be more educated. Then you're talking another 85 years, you could say everybody pretty much, because most people only live to roughly 100, if they're lucky. You know what I mean? Yeah, do you know what I mean? So like you're talking in 85 years, you could say that everybody's had some form of water safety education. Now we're still looking at 100 years because we've not started it yet.
Yeah. So Lorna's saying that green algae is dangerous in rivers too. A toddler ran down the grass and into the river. I think that means near my house. Fortunately, she was saved. And weeds, of course, because people don't really, they see a river or they see a lake or whatever. They don't see what is underneath there. And there was a very sad story last year. A guy, they think he went in for a swim. His dog was at the side of the river waiting for him, and he got entangled in the weeds when he came. He went in for a swim. He didn't mean to do anything to himself or anything.
Yeah.
And literally got tangled. There's things that are under there you don't know until you go in there. I wouldn't dream of honestly, I'd be terrified. I love swimming, but I like swimming in the pool. I don't even like swimming in the sea really, because I like to see what's there. I don't like it when I can't see what's there and what I might be putting my feet on or whatever. Luckily for me, I've never been interested in swimming in strange places. But yeah, I love swimming in the pool because you know where you are. But of course, you can still drown in the pool. You've got to be careful, haven't you? You know, but
Yeah, of course.
they
I
have.
mean, the no lifeguard, no swimming message. It's very, very relevant, and obviously, it's like the Green Cross code: stop, look, and listen. But if people don't follow it, then they don't follow it. And obviously, it's not always a case of it's going to work, is it? You know, just because you've stopped, looked, and listened, you might have missed that motorbike coming at 70 mile an hour, and you might still get run over. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So even
yeah.
if you follow my advice of no lifeguard, no swimming, that's only lowering your chance of drowning. It's not eliminating it.
Say it can't happen. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And what
yeah.
Annie's saying there about how when on the beach you see parents let small kids go off into the sea. Now, I was on the beach once with my son when he was little, and literally just took my eyes off him for a minute. And the next minute I looked and I could see that he'd fallen under the sea. You know, he'd tripped up and fallen. And I was running and I couldn't believe how, because the other thing in the sea that what people don't realise is they start off right in front of you. And then because of the waves and
The tide
next thing they're right up, you know, they've moved away and you just, you know, look up from your book or whatever. And he's like, oh my God, where's he gone? And he hadn't moved that far, but he had moved far that I had to run then and get him. And nobody was taking any notice. I could see
No.
that, I mean, not, you know, deliberately, they weren't, that nobody had noticed people that were actually sat near him because he'd moved away from right in front of me. Nobody had noticed. So I was sort of running down the beach, picked him up, and he was fine, obviously. But, you know, it just made me realise how quick that happened, like within 2 minutes. 1 minute he was there right in front of me paddling in the sea. And the next minute he'd moved down the beach a bit and he'd actually fallen into the water. He was under the water, only for probably a couple of minutes. But as we know, a couple of minutes is all it takes, isn't it?
Well, one of the reasons why I mentioned the giant unicorn really is because a couple of years ago there was two young girls and they'd got a giant unicorn. They'd gone to the beach, mum and dad. Dad was holding it like the unicorn was tethered, so it had like a rope on it. So dad's holding that while they're messing about on the unicorn, and he turned round to speak to mum, turned back, and they're off with the current. But because they're on this unicorn, it's going faster and faster. So he's swimming out to him, and all he's saying is this unicorn is becoming a little tiny dot in the ocean. He can't even see it. He's swimming as fast as he can, but he can't get to it quick enough. Anyway, RNLI come out and picked him up, but they had a popped unicorn on the boat, so you can imagine him at that precise moment in time. They've got a unicorn that's popped, and they've got him, and they haven't got his girls.
Oh my God.
So obviously he's very, very distraught. He's telling them to chuck him back in the water and everything else, go and find his girls. And it turns out his girls had been picked up off a French fishing vessel. They'd ended up in the channel.
Oh my God. You know, see,
And that's
these
a
are
true
things
story.
that people just don't realise can happen. You wouldn't think in a million years that could happen, would you, really?
No.
If you didn't
And they
know.
only knew what to do when the unicorn had popped. They knew to float to try and survive, because the day before they'd spoken to RNLI and they'd give them that advice. So had it not been for them getting that advice the day before, who knows?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the people in chat just saying about canals being dangerous. People swim in canals, don't they? But yeah, what's this that Kelly's saying? There are people advocating river swimming for mental health.
Yeah.
On YouTube, which they do, and it's supposed to be good for your mental health. But again, I suppose as long as they do it safely. But anyway, she's asking what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, so my thoughts are, I'm not a mental health worker. I don't know whether it has good impacts or bad impacts on the mental health. I know that some people say that it does, some people say that it doesn't. I think it's a choice thing whether or not you want to do it, but I just think it needs to be done safely. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
As long as it's done safely, then I have absolutely no problem whatsoever with it. The thing is, we say we've got these mental health things and people going in, but we don't hear about the deaths on these mental health ones, do we not? They're never on the news, them ones. So we did have a lady that went on one of these and she paid £500 to go on a mental health cold water swim thing, and she drowned, and it was never anywhere. Nobody ever seen it. Then there was another guy. There was a guy that went. caving in. He went down south caving again, paid money to go caving. He drowned. Never hear about it on the news. Open water swimmers, you very rarely hear about them losing life in the water, but it happens, and it happens regular. But it's hidden. It's not. You know, they don't want to know about an open water swimmer drowning as much as they want to know about a stupid teenager, because that's what they end up calling them in the press. They use horrible words, and why are these teenagers not learning? These teenagers aren't learning because they're not being taught. It's not that they're not learning, it's that you're not teaching them. Putting it out in the newspaper once a year is not teaching them. That's not education.
So what would you like to see? What would be your ideal thing that you'd like to see, that you'd feel like, better about what's happened?
I'd like to see water safety on the national curriculum properly. I know that they've told me that it is now, but I'd like to see it put into action. I'd like to see actually it in place. I'd like to see what it looks like on paper. I'd like to see what they plan on doing, i.e. Are they going to be taking kids to open water to teach them about water safety? Are they going to be just doing classroom sessions? Is it going to be in the pool? How is this going to relay? How's it going to? That's one thing that I want to see. Another thing I'd like to see more parents obviously made aware of water safety, and like I've already said, if we can get information on planes for children, for parents, for adults, for everybody, if it could just be put in the right places at the right time, the right people would see it in the middle of movies, in the middle of, in the adverts at the start, just a warning. The last time we ever had any water safety warning in our country was in 1978, and it was an advert called The Grim Reaper. I don't know if any of your listeners or watchers remember it, but it was like a Grim Reaper came out of the water, and he's like, I'm the Grim Reaper, deep, dark, lonely waters, and it's actually quite scary. You watch it and you think, wow, I'm not sure I would have went in water if I'd have seen that. Do you know what I mean? I never seen that. If you YouTube it, Deep Dark Lonely Waters, it's called, and it was an advert that was on. Last time it was on was 1978, and it is quite. It's eerie.
1978. Oh my God. That's even before my time, I think. So
and honestly, it's just crazy. It's like, and we've got statistics of drownings back to like the 40s or the 50s or something. It's just stupid. So we had statistics. We were taking statistics of how many people were drowning, but we weren't doing anything to prevent it. More people obviously do drown inland than what they do at the coast, and that is because we've got lifeguards at the coast. We don't have lifeguards in rivers, in canals, in lakes, in quarries.
Let's have a look at this advert. I don't know if they'll pick me up for copyright, but never mind. The public information film. It's good in another way, because sometimes with things like this, you have to.
I'm not even saying that needed to continue, but obviously there was a need to have something to do with water safety 1978 and prior. So why did they not update it, or why did they not make it better? Why did it just disappear? Why did all of a sudden there's no public announcement for water safety? It's like the Great North Swim. They do the Great North Swim every year in the Lake District, and they love to show people swimming in the open water. They love to show it. They don't show the lifeguards that are on hand at the side of the water, and there's plenty of them, let me tell you. They don't show the safety boats that are in the water, and there's got to be so many per however many people. They don't show all that, and I don't understand why, because such programs like as Gladiators used to have a thing across the bottom of the screen saying, do not try this at home because this is performed by professionals. So why is like really dangerous things not got warnings?
That's a really good point. So because of course you watch something like that and it's great, and watching it, and it'll probably make quite a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to go out and do a bit of wild water swimming. And like you say, it's not that you're against wild water swimming in itself, it's just as long as people do it, but there's no safety thing, because those people that are doing that swim, they're experienced, aren't they? They've probably have had safety courses and this, that and the other, but somebody who's watching it, they think, oh, I'm going to go and do that, or I'm going to try that looks fun. But no, like you say, no sort of caveat at the bottom. They're just telling people to be careful if they do decide to do it. It's interesting that. The thing is, you know, it's virtually impossible to stop things altogether, isn't it? Because there'll always probably be accidents, but you can reduce them, you know, and there'll always be somebody that could be saved, as you found. There'll be people that can be saved. And, you know, anyway, I suppose. So have you got any particular plans for this year that are different from anything you've done before? Is this making sure the curriculum is up there? You were saying to me that you were trying to contact maybe with Angela Rayner or somebody to see if it is on the curriculum.
Yeah, so obviously I want to see how it looks on the curriculum. I'm obviously trying to get in to speak to the Education Minister, and I'm obviously going to speak to Angela Rayner, only because I've had dealings with Angela Rayner before, and I've spoken to Angela Rayner. She's quite close to where I live, and she's had a drowning in her area as well, so she's a good person to speak to. So that's the education side of things. Aside of that, I want to continue to give recommendations to councils, to owners of bodies of open water, so like quarry owners, councils, environmental agency. I want to go out and do risk assessments around their bodies of open water. The people I want to try and reach are the people that were like Dylan. I know that had Dylan been educated, he would not have died that day. Now, if I can reach those people that are like Dylan, which there are plenty of them about, then we'll save lives. There's plenty of people that aren't like Dylan that'll ignore every word that I say.
Yeah.
I haven't come across many, I'm not going to lie. I've been in some schools where I've been told, you know, we've got you in to tick a box. We've got you in to tick a box to say that we've taught water safety, and these kids are not going to listen to you. And as soon as I open my mouth, they do listen to me, because they have no other alternative other than to listen to me, because I demand a kind of, not a respect, because I don't demand respect. Respect is earned. You know, you're not just given it. But thank you. But yeah, it's earned respect.
Well, you do. No, that's right. And I think you are very compelling to listen to. You come over, someone just came into the chat and someone else said to them, you need to go back and watch when you get a chance. This lady's amazing. Because you come over, your how can I put your authenticity? It just shines through what you're saying, your passion for what you're talking about, and you put it over in a very interesting way. So, and that, because you know, at the end of the day, especially with young people, you do have to capture their interest as well, don't you? So, it just
I mean, the young people get it. The young people get it hook, line, and sinker. I'm not going to lie. When I go into schools, they get told about what happened on that day. It's not a case of showing that video. I physically tell them what happened on that day, and then I get to a point where I ask how would they think their parents would feel if their parent had to identify them on a slab where there was where they weren't breathing, where they were cold, and I explain what it was like to go in and visually see my son, because I wasn't allowed to see Dylan for 2 hours. I wasn't allowed in the back of the ambulance with him. I wasn't allowed to go to the hospital with him when he was transported from the quarry, even though I arrived before he left. I wasn't allowed to do any of that. I was only allowed to see Dylan 2 hours later. And that was, let's be honest, to do the police's job, cross the T's and dot the I's and say, yes, that was Dylan Ramsay. You know what I mean? I went to identify his body. That's the be all and end all.
Yeah. Do you know,
Oh, thank you.
yeah. David's got to go and walk his dogs. I'm going to have to go in a minute because I've got to pick up my son from work. But do you know, thank you so much for coming on and telling Dylan's story and your story as well, of course. And, you know, anytime there's anything you want me to share, just contact me. I'll put it out in a community post or do a quick thing to say, oh, this is going on, or can you support this, or what. Any message that you want to put out, just contact me anytime and I'll put it out on here. And what I'll be
Thank
doing
you.
with this, I do, like, I put some clips of this on the TikTok as well. I don't really understand it, I'm a bit too old for TikTok.
Yeah,
But
I think I am. I just mime songs.
But do you know what? I have got like about 650 followers on there now, which has surprised me completely. So what I tend to do is just put little clips on, and and that's what they like on TikTok, don't they? They like just these quick videos, probably better than
Yeah.
longer videos. Whereas
And
I'm a bit
what I
of a
have found, just for a little tip, what I have found is
All
if
right.
you put a title across your page, you'll get more views.
Yeah, I noticed a few of them doing that, like just a strip
Even
across.
even if it just said Beckie Ramsay, or talking about drowning prevention, or just giving an insight to what
Yeah.
the TikTok's going to hold. I don't know. I tried it anyway, and it did work.
It did work, yeah. And then I've done,
Yeah.
I think I've done about I can do the lives now. I'm at a point where I get, they allow you to do lives, don't they?
Yeah.
But I don't really do many because I'm a chatter. I like to, as like we've done. So I can't believe we've been on over 2 hours. It's gone so quick.
I know.
Just like the other day when we were chatting.
I know.
And then TikTok.
Well, if you ever want me on for anything, I'm fine to talk about grief, counselling, helping families, arguing with councils.
Arguing with councils. Because Mello, who's just come in, Mello, you'll go back hopefully on replay, but I just want to tell him about Lindsay Hoyle, because he's quite into politics. Mello, he's just come on, and Beckie's MP is Lindsay Hoyle, but of all people. And he shares my thoughts on Lindsay Hoyle as a lot of it, because he's pretty rubbish, isn't he? Bless him. He's almost too nice. He doesn't really. He
comes across as so false, doesn't he? He
doesn't
false.
really get into anything. I'd rather have someone with a bit of fire and brimstone.
A bit of backbone, a bit of fighting, and somebody that's going to stand up and shout for you.
Yes, Rebecca will be back. So Burton's asked, look, so will Rebecca be back? You. Yeah, and you should, try and get your PayPal sorted out and that, and then we can.
Yeah, I will do. I will do.
Do you know, when you were saying that about, for God, if I would have known you, then we could have done a little sort of whip round for you to stay somewhere instead of in your car. Now we know, you've got to let us know if you're going somewhere, and you got to choose that way between.
Luckily, it's only ever happened once that, luckily I've managed to be able to secure either a hotel or somewhere. And quite often, because I am relatable and because I am an all right kind of person, people put me up. So if I'm helping a family out, for instance, the first time or the second time, maybe I might stay in a hotel because they've never met me, which is quite understandable. And I've never met them, so I don't want to stay in their home either. But once I've met them once or twice, I feel comfortable confident to stay with them, and they feel comfortable to have me in the home. So, when I'm supporting families in particular, I tend to not have to pay for hotels and stuff. Schools, I mean, at the moment, up to now, so from January to March, that's usually my quietest time. But because we had the ice period, I did have a bit of a busy time in January because a young lad was seen walking on the ice. I put the post up on Facebook and it just went stupid. I think there was like 1.1 thousand shares on the post because there was a young boy walking on the ice, and I was putting up some ice advice. So like different times of the year, I'll have different campaigns, summer campaigns, winter campaigns, because like I said, it's not just summer that people drown. And I will absolutely come back on. If anybody wants to find me on anything, if anybody wants to find me on anything, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Twitter.
Right, I'm going to put everything in the description. I'm going to share all your social media links and that, so people can find you on there. And everyone's enjoyed it. So David went off to walk the dogs, but because we still haven't finished, He's
He's
back.
come back on. Bless him.
That's it. There's always lots to say. That's the thing. I didn't even look at me. I have all my notes here. I haven't even gone through my notes.
Yeah, you don't need to.
Things to say, no. But I
It's better
really
when
have
it comes
got to go
natural.
now, because otherwise I'll be in trouble for being late to pick up my son. But listen, thank you so much. And I hope,
Not a problem.
did you say in 4 days you've got this thing coming up? I hope it's not, that you get through it. I'll be sending
You know what? It'll just be a day. It'll just be a day, and it'll just be one of them things. I'm suspecting it's probably just going to be a hard day for me, and then we'll move on, and hopefully I can continue with life. But we'll see. Who knows? Who knows? I don't take anything for granted anymore.
Well, to finish now, I'm going to put a video. I've prepared a little video of some photos of Dylan that I'm going to put on to finish. Oh, that's the message. That's probably my son. And then I'm going to put on the end thing. So I'll say goodbye to you now, but I'll see you very soon. Thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you for having me on, and thank you to all your listeners and for all the lovely comments and the support.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a shame you couldn't see it. I've been putting up what I can. But there's such positive. Have you seen them? Yeah?
I can see I can see the one you're putting up. Yeah, it's really nice. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you so much. And here's some nice pictures of Dylan.
Thank you.